Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. This Roscoe's viewing party was for the premiere episode of Drag Race Season 15 and the guests were Season 14 winner Willow Pill and Season 13 contestant Denali. Coming up we'll be talking about how social media affects Drag Race queens and their behaviour, backstage tea from Willow and Denali's seasons, and Willow reveals she had a bad experience with Violet Chachki. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. At the start of the episode, host Naysha Lopez mentioned DragCon UK, which was happening on the same day as the Season 15 premiere, and Denali said, quote, "It's such a blessing to not be here at DragCon right now. No shade, it's great, stressful, fun time." Denali then went on to explain that DragCon is really expensive and stressful for the queens, and people don't realise just how expensive it is. As a side note, some of you may not know that the queens have to pay for their own booths at DragCon, and they can cost hundreds if not thousands of dollars, so it's a really big commitment for the queens. Make sure you check out my recent video about my experience at DragCon UK, where I talk about this in more detail. I'll put the link in the description. And Denali finished by saying, quote, "Yeah, it's a lot, it's really expensive, people don't realise, it's just like anything World of Wonder makes us do, it's all paid by us, yes." And this comment is probably referring to the fact that, according to several sources that have been leaked on the internet, the queens are apparently contractually obligated to attend DragCon and have no choice. They were then talking about the group number that the queens had to do on Season 15, Episode 1, and Denali said that on her season, which was Season 13, they gave the contestants an hour to do the dance rehearsal and film it, and they then bring you back to finish the dance routine for about 6 or 7 hours. Then, one of the hosts mentioned that Willow Pill had been involved with the Season 15 cast reveal and asked if Willow had any favourites from the season. And Willow shared some interesting tea about the Season 15 cast reveal. Willow said that even though the Season 15 cast comes across as being quite loud on camera, they were actually really quiet during the reveal and didn't really say anything. Willow then said, quote, "I don't know if there's beef after the show maybe," implying that perhaps the cast were quiet because of an argument that had happened during the season. They then discussed the twin contestants, Sugar and Spice, who were already famous on TikTok before Drag Race and have over 7.5 million followers. And host Naysha Lopez asked what the other people's thoughts were on production casting social media queens on Drag Race. Denali said she thought it was interesting that the producers are using different strategies to not only create drama but also during the casting process. Denali then said that, quote, "Because drag is mainstream and it has to go where the numbers are." And she said that the producers like to scoop up people who have a big following. And Denali was implying as though the Drag Race producers find people who have a big following online because they can then convert their followers into Drag Race followers. And then Naysha asked Denali how she would have felt as a contestant on the show if she was cast in the same season as a famous social media queen rather than a legendary performer like Sasha Colby. Denali said that she would be annoyed if she was cast on a season with a social media queen because Denali is a performer, and she also said, quote, "A million performers that I know would be amazing that could have taken that spot." They then started discussing the talent show performances on Season 15, and Willow said how shocked she was by how much she liked Spice's performance. And Willow said that Sugar and Spice are more in on the joke than we give them credit for, and Willow thinks they're doing a really good job on the season. Just to explain, when Sugar and Spice were announced as part of the cast of Season 15, a lot of people joked about it because they're social media queens and people didn't think they were going to be any good on the show. Naysha then said, quote, "They're not stupid," implying that Sugar and Spice might put on a ditzy persona, but they are actually very aware of what they're doing. One of the hosts, Caramel, then asked if they think that the producers will make Sugar and Spice lip sync against each other at some point in the season. All of the others laughed and said of course they were going to make them lip sync, and Naysha then said, quote, "Oh, I mean, have you watched the show? Have you seen this bleep? They're going to go home traumatized." They were then talking a bit more about social media queens, and Naysha made an interesting point about it. Naysha explained that there's a place in LA where you can pay about $300 and you can go on a private jet that doesn't move, it just sits on the ground. But you can go inside and take photos of yourself to make it look like you're on a real private jet. And Naysha said, quote, "That's how social media queens are for me." And Naysha then talked about the downside of social media queens, saying that on social media you can make yourself look like anything even if it's not true. Naysha then said, quote, "But then, like she said, then you get them on stage and you're like, bleep, whoa," implying that social media queens might look good online but they actually can't perform. They then got to the point in the episode of season 15 where Irene Dubois got eliminated, and Naysha shared her thoughts on this because, as some of you may remember, Naysha was the queen that was first eliminated on season 8. Naysha said that being a first out queen does not define your talent. Naysha then added, quote, "On my season I went home first and people think you went home first, you have no talent." And then Naysha referred to Irene and said, quote, "So please make sure you show her love, she is ridiculously talented, her drag is so right," and encouraged people to go follow Irene on social media. They then started talking about how the cast of season 15 includes 16 queens in total, which is a very large cast. And Denali then talked about the challenges of being part of a season that has a large cast. Denali said it's difficult to stay in contact with people, especially when you're all working and travelling around all the time. And she added, quote, "It's really actually difficult to maintain those friendships and trauma bond from that summer that you all spent." And then Willow talked about her first day on the set of season 14 and how she was feeling. Willow explained that she was so nervous on that first day that she didn't say anything, and she said that her heart was beating out of her chest. And then when referring to the season 15 cast, Willow said, quote, "So I don't know what I would do with 15 girls and they're all so loud." They then started talking about the season 15 contestant Mistress Isabel Brooks and how it's been a while since there were any old school shady queens on Drag Race. And Willow made a funny comment about the cast of season 14. Willow said, quote, "I mean, my season was a bunch of like clowns and like trans people." Some people in the audience then gasped and some people laughed, and one of the other hosts said, "Oh my god," while laughing. And Naysha then added, quote, "She can say it, okay, she can say it." And Willow's comment was likely referring to the fact that season 14 had the most amount of trans queens ever, including Willow, Bosco, Jasmine Kennedy, Kerry Colby, and Cornbread. They then started talking about Mistress Isabel Brooks being shady on season 15, and Naysha said that when queens are shady to each other, it's all light-hearted and said from a place of love and it shouldn't be taken seriously. Naysha also explained that, quote, "We're not coming for any queens, we don't dislike anyone." And she added that what they say at the Roscoe's viewing parties are just jokes and they're all done for entertainment. And Denali also shared her thoughts on this and said that the fans don't get to see what happens backstage, which is why some people, a bit like Sugar and Spice in episode 1, think that when people are being shady it's really serious, but it's actually just a joke and it's part of the drag community. Denali then followed this up by saying, quote, "No girl, this is love language, this is like culture right here." Willow then talked about the fact that on season 14, the cast didn't really have any drama because they all got on so well. And Willow implied as though the producers tried to get the queens to fight with each other, but Willow said that no one wanted to fight. And Willow then said about season 15, "I feel the tension rising in this season already and I love it." They then moved on to the audience Q&A session, and the first question was about whether it's important to watch Untucked to get context for the main episodes. Willow said that she doesn't really watch Untucked apart from season 7's Untucked because it was good, but Willow said she feels like the recent seasons of Untucked have been so nice, except for Candy Muse and Tamisha Iman on season 13. And Willow then made an interesting point about how social media has affected how the queens behave on Drag Race. Willow said, quote, "There's become too much consciousness about how you're going to be judged by the fans, and I wish that would kind of go away and they would just plough them with alcohol as well, because then there would be a lot more fun." And Denali then shared a fun behind the scenes moment from her season involving Candy Muse. Denali said that on season 13, they filmed it during the COVID-19 pandemic, and there were a lot of protests and riots happening at that time. So everyone in the season 13 cast was so scared to say anything. And Denali said that Candy walked into the workroom one day and said to everyone, quote, "Ladies, it's a really difficult time to be white right now." And everyone in the audience at Roscoe's laughed. Willow and Denali then said they wished that there was more drama in Untucked like in the older seasons. And Denali said, quote, "It's nice to honestly get back to that time because remember when we were flinging drinks and bleep." And this was most likely a reference to the famous season 3 Untucked fight between Shangela and Mimi on First, where Mimi accused Shangela of having a sugar daddy and Shangela threw a drink over Mimi. Willow and Denali then said that they want punches and a physical brawl, and Willow joked that they should give someone a knife. An audience member then made the point that a lot more of the season 15 cast did original songs in the talent show numbers, and they asked Willow if she thought whether her season 14 sister Cornbread was the inspiration for that. And Willow shared some behind the scenes tea about the talent show on season 14. Willow explained that the talent show was thrown at them at the last minute, and she said that in total they had about 3 weeks to get ready for the season, and they only found out a week and a half before filming that they had to do a talent show number. And Denali said she thinks that the show might have prompted the season 15 queens to create an original song for the talent show because they saw how successful Cornbread's original song was. The conversation then moved on, and Willow and Denali talked about being friends, and an audience member then asked what they both like doing when they're hanging out together not in drag. There was a silent moment and people started laughing as if they knew what was going to happen, and Denali said, "You want the real answer?" and then said, drugs. Willow nodded and laughed and everyone else laughed, and one of the judges made a joke that Willow and Denali were being bad role models. And Denali said, quote, "Just the legal ones like Mary Wonka." An audience member then asked if Willow or Denali had ever had a bad experience with another Drag Race queen. And Willow revealed that there was one queen who she had a bad experience with before Willow got on Drag Race. Willow said, quote, "I've toured or been in dressing rooms with queens when I was not on the show that were not like the best." At first, Willow didn't want to say who the queen was, but then the audience shouted out asking her to spill the tea. Willow said, quote, "Should I? It's not even that bad. It's not even that bad. Honestly, it was kind of warranted. I mean, it was Violet Chachki." The audience then erupted into laughter for a minute, and this is likely because there is a kind of ongoing thing in the Drag Race community that Violet Chachki has developed a bad reputation for being difficult to work with, and multiple queens have called her out for it. Willow then gave some more information about what happened with Violet and explained that she was doing a show with her drag sister Evie Oddly, and this was before Willow got on Drag Race. And Violet was also part of the gig that they were at. Willow said that it was a drive-in drag gig which happened during COVID, and they had to share a trailer with Violet, and Willow said that Violet was so annoyed and, quote, "wouldn't look me in the eye." But Willow followed this up by saying, quote, "Whatever, I effing love her, she warmed up too, and you know I live for Violet." Naysha then defended Violet and said that drag queens are only human and that we all have our good and bad days, but then Naysha joked that some people have more bad days than good days. And then Willow mentioned Violet again and joked, quote, "Honestly, it was an honour to breathe the same air as her." A different audience member then asked whether queens who get eliminated on Drag Race find out what happened on the episodes after they've left. Willow said that she wouldn't know, which was a joke because Willow won her season so she never got eliminated. But Denali, who got eliminated on her season in episode 10, said that the queens do get filled in about what happened during the season. And she also said, although the queens are not allowed to talk to each other unless it's on camera, the queens would often talk to each other in the vans when they were driving to and from the set in secret. And that's when Denali said that Candy Muse stole one of her reads for the reading challenge. Denali explained that the read that Candy said to Elliot with 2 T's was actually Denali's idea. Denali said the read was something like, quote, "The 2 T's stand for like TJ Maxx and this and something like that." I went back and watched the season 13 reading challenge to try and find the exact quote, but Candy didn't actually say anything about Elliot from what was shown in the episode, so it must have not been aired. Anyway, Denali also said that she kept a notebook where she wrote down everything that happened on every episode so she wouldn't forget what happened. She then said that the other queens on season 13 asked to see her notes so they could try and remember what happened, and Denali said that it helped the queens to plan their stuff later. And finally, someone in the audience asked for recommendations for good drag content outside of Drag Race. Denali said that when you get on Drag Race, your life becomes about drag, and Denali said that she and Willow both try and consume non-drag related content to try and, quote, balance ourselves out. But Denali ended by saying, quote, however, I will say there is incredible talent on Dragula and you should definitely check that out. So there you go, there was a recap of the Roscoe's viewing party for the premiere episode of Drag Race Season 15. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's recap for the latest viewing party, which was for Season 15 Episode 3. You can watch the full video on Roscoe's channel, I'll put a link in the description. The guests for this week were Irene Dubois and Princess Poppy, who both competed on Season 15. And as I've previously said, I'm unable to use any actual video clips from Roscoe's due to copyright reasons. Today we're going to be talking about why Poppy would never go back for All Stars, Orion Story slamming Irene Dubois on Twitter, and Poppy denies faking her COVID test for Drag Race. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So, first of all, host Batty Davis asked whether Poppy and Irene keep in touch with their castmates, and Irene said that she was friends with everyone and the cast are all good friends and there's not really any drama. Then Poppy said that there is drama with Robin and Amethyst on Twitter right now. This is referring to the fact that Robin and Amethyst said during Untucked that they used to date but then they broke up, and there was some contention between the two of them as to who initiated the breakup. Anyway, Irene then said, quote, I don't need these C characters doing main character bleep. And Irene compared it to Star Wars when the Ewoks have their own movie, but really you just want to get back to the Jedis. Implying as though Robin and Amethyst are not the main stars of Season 15. And this then led to a conversation about Irene bringing the drama on the season, and the hosts said that Irene should have stayed on the show because she was entertaining. And Irene made the point that she's a drag queen and that what she says is exactly what queens say to each other off camera, but a lot of them choose to not say shady things on camera. Host Nasia Lopez then asked Irene if Luxe Noir London was still mad about the 40-inch wig thing. Just to explain, in episode 1, when Luxe came into the workroom, she said her wig was 40 inches long, and Irene said that it wasn't, and they compared wig lengths. And people started discussing this issue on social media, and it became a bit of a joke. Irene said that apparently Luxe was bothered by this, and Irene said, quote, I wish she wasn't, but Irene explained that they did talk about it off camera and they are fine now. But Irene said that because no one else was bringing the drama on the season, that's why the show decided to really showcase the wig drama in the premiere episode. They then moved on to the main challenge of episode 3, which was the acting challenge to create an infomercial about the queer afterlife. When asked what they thought of this challenge, Poppy said she hated it and said, quote, well, gay heaven, they're running out of ideas. Poppy also said they were given less than an hour to write the script before they had to go film it, and the producers also made them change lots of stuff right before they went to filming. Poppy then mentioned Jax's team. You may remember that in the episode, the team were having some disagreements about the concept of the challenge, and at one point Jax made Sugar switch places with her at the table to stop Sugar talking so much. Poppy explained that Jax's team was, quote, at each other's throats, and Poppy also said that what they showed on TV wasn't that bad, but in reality they were, quote, screaming at each other behind the set. They then talked about the runway for that episode, and the category was Metallica, and Poppy addressed the judges' critiques that her outfit was too simple. Poppy showed an image of the outfit that she was supposed to wear, but said that the designer didn't consult her while making that outfit and made it out of non-metallic material. And when Poppy said it wasn't right, the designer refused to remake the outfit. So Poppy just had to wear a backup outfit, which is what you saw in the episode. Poppy also implied as though the designer made costumes for other queens for that week's runway, but prioritised them over Poppy. And Batty then asked how many suitcases they brought to Drag Race, and Poppy and Irene said you're allowed to bring 8 suitcases. Which I thought was interesting because in previous seasons, the contestants were apparently only allowed to bring 5 or 6 suitcases, so this rule seems to have changed. They then moved on to the lip sync between Poppy and Amethyst, and Naysha, as well as some others, agreed that Poppy should have won the lip sync because she was funny. Poppy said that she was, quote, heartbroken when she lost, and said that she was keeping it together on camera, but when the cameras cut, she was crying so much that multiple producers had to come over to console her. Batty then asked Poppy if she would ever do All Stars, and Poppy immediately said no. Poppy elaborated and said, quote, the filming process was the worst thing I've ever done in my entire life. She explained that she isn't the sort of person that does well in reality TV competitions, and she said, quote, every single aspect of filming I hated. Poppy also said she was sort of relieved to be eliminated because, quote, they're constantly poking and prodding you, and she said that it just was all too much. They then talked about the set where they filmed Drag Race, and Irene said that the set is in the middle of nowhere and they have big tarps over the gates so you can't see in and it's all very secretive. And Naysha said that the reason Drag Race started filming in the middle of nowhere is because in the older seasons, around season 2 or 3, the contestants once left to go to Starbucks and they ran into Michelle Visage at Starbucks. And that's why the show started sequestering the queens in their hotel rooms and security is now a lot tighter. Naysha then asked whether Irene and Poppy will post photos of the outfits on Instagram that they didn't get to wear on the show. And Poppy said she hated her outfit for the ball and explained that season 15 was filming around the same time as DragCon LA, which meant that all the good designers were prioritising making outfits for the queens for DragCon. And so Poppy said she ended up getting a cheap outfit made for the ball, but she hated it and said that she's glad she got eliminated before the ball so she didn't have to wear it. They then started discussing filming Drag Race post-COVID, and Poppy said that she actually caught COVID 2 weeks before filming, and even though she didn't have it anymore, the test was still showing positive. So apparently, Poppy read online that if you put lots of chapstick up inside your nose, it makes the test show as negative, which is what she did, and she ended up being allowed on the show. And Irene made a joke that Poppy infected everyone on set. However, after the Roscoe's episode aired, Poppy must have received some critical comments about this online, and she tweeted saying, quote, I've gotten a few comments about what I said at Roscoe's about my COVID test. Can't believe I have to clarify what I thought was a funny story, but I was not positive with COVID. We were required to take PCR tests to go on the show, but they can show COVID in your system for months. Poppy then went on to explain in a series of other tweets that she had done rapid tests, but they were all negative, but the PCR tests kept coming back positive. But she consulted with the show and many doctors, and they agreed that she didn't actually have COVID, so she was allowed to go film. And she also said that she would never endanger the health of the other contestants. However, she has since deleted several of the tweets. Irene then talked about her talent show number from the premiere episode where she made a glass of iced water and it wasn't well received by the judges. Irene explained that she did it for the producers during the rehearsal and they all laughed, and Irene also said the contestants were laughing while she was doing it during the talent show. But they apparently edited out the laughs to make it look like no one was laughing. And Poppy backed her up and said that the contestants were actually laughing, and implied as though the editors made it look more awkward than it actually was. Poppy then talked about her talent show number and said that although in the edit they showed people laughing during her performance, no one was actually laughing. But Irene disagreed and said that she was laughing so much that they had to cut. But Irene agreed that the judges were apparently, quote, staring daggers at Poppy during the performance, and Poppy thought that she was going to be in the bottom that week because of it. And Poppy added that the contestants were basing their laughing off the judges. So if the judges weren't laughing, the contestants weren't laughing either, regardless of whether it was funny or not. Batty then brought up the fact that Irene had mentioned Naysha Lopez during an interview and asked why Irene did that, implying as though it sounded shady. Just to give some context, the entire cast of season 15 was doing a press interview with Joey and Pat from Out and About. And at one point, Irene was handed the microphone and she said, quote, Naysha Lopez also won Miss Continental, and then there was a bit of silence. And it seems as though Batty and Naysha didn't understand why Irene had said that. Irene said she was happy to explain what happened and said that one of the interviewers had said to Sasha Colby earlier in the interview that she was a former Miss Continental winner, so was there any point in the other contestants competing on the season because Sasha was clearly going to win? Irene said that it made everyone uncomfortable in the interview, including Sasha. And the reason Irene mentioned Naysha Lopez is because Naysha also won Miss Continental, but she went home first on her season. So winning Miss Continental doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win Drag Race. Naysha said that she wasn't offended and said she understood the point Irene was making. And Naysha also said, quote, "Shame on the interviewers for asking such a stupid question like that." They then went on to the audience Q&A, and someone asked Irene and Poppy whether they think Amethyst is being kept in the competition because the producers want to push the storyline of the previous relationship between Amethyst and Robin. And Irene said she doesn't know how the producers are thinking, but she said that if that's what they're planning on doing, then, quote, "they're making a bad choice." But it's not 100% clear what Irene meant by that. Another audience member said that they feel like the judges are being quite harsh on the season so far and asked if Irene and Poppy agree. Irene said that if you compare season 15 to the earlier seasons, like season 3, then the judges are actually really nice. Irene went on to say that the judges, quote, "used to be so effing rude." And Poppy also gave her opinion on this and said that because on season 14 there were so many non-eliminations and that everything was so positive, the judges on this season wanted to be more, quote, "cutthroat." Poppy also said that on season 14, the judges were apparently telling everyone that they're special, and then Poppy said, quote, "Alright, calm down, you're Orion's story." Everyone laughed, but Poppy said that it was just a joke. And the hosts joked that Orion was in the audience, and then Irene said that Orion was, quote, "not booked," and implied as though Orion doesn't get work. And it appears that Orion did not take very kindly to this. After the Roscoe's episode aired, Orion's story tweeted saying, quote, "not trying to sit there and say I'm not booked. Girl, sit down with your ice water, you sound dumb as hell." And host Batty Davis, who said to Irene during the viewing party that she was friends with Orion, responded to Orion's tweet and said, quote, "Yup, that's what she said, I told her not to go there." And Orion responded saying, quote, "Like girl, take your one episode paycheck and make sure not to spend it all in one place." And someone else commented, referring to Irene, saying, quote, "I love her, let's tear down other queens because I don't have a shtick. And Orion replied saying, quote, "that's all she does." Irene eventually commented on Orion's tweet and said, quote, "I promise I meant it as a joke, I'm sure you're very busy." And Orion replied saying, quote, "Poppy's joke was funny, yours was just a malicious comment. You've been very negative online towards a lot of queens and it's not the tea." Orion also said that she heard that Irene had been making jokes about her in the dressing room at Roscoe's before the viewing party started. And Irene said that she didn't have any negative feelings toward Orion and it was just a joke, and she said Orion is entitled to how she feels. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Naysha said that when Adore Delano left All Stars 2, after she was upset by the judges' comments, it made a big change in the way the show treats the contestants. Naysha said that the show now needs to be more careful with how they speak to the queens, because if the queens decide to leave, they can't make the show. And Adore was really the starting point for this. Another audience member then asked when Irene and Poppy found out that the episodes were being reduced from 1 hour to 40 minutes. Irene said that they only got told a week before, and Irene was really annoyed because she thought she would have 2 episodes, but then found out that they were combining episode 1 and 2. And Irene said she called her producer and was really annoyed, and then said, quote, "they don't tell us bleep." And finally, Irene said that when MTV made the decision to reduce the episodes from 1 hour to 40 minutes, the show had already been filmed and MTV hadn't really consulted with production about it. So the Drag Race editors then had to struggle to try and cut the footage down into the 40-minute slot, which meant that a lot of storylines got cut out of the season. So there you go, there was a recap of the Roscoe's viewing party for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15 Episode 3. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another recap of Roscoe's viewing party, which was for Season 15 Episode 4. And the guests were Lucy LaDuca from Season 15, Crystal Method from Season 12 and Dia Betty from Season 14. Today we're going to be discussing Lucy LaDuca's controversial unaired jokes from Snatch Game, how much the queens really spend on Drag Race, and also why everyone hates the real friends of WeHo. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. Please also note that I will not be using any actual clips from Roscoe's due to copyright reasons, but I will link to the viewing party in the description so you can watch the full version if you want to. So first of all, Lucy was asked about what had happened at the beginning of the episode, where Luxe Noir London said that she felt that she and Sasha were in the top 2 of the previous week's challenge, and she said that Lucy would have been 3rd. Lucy seemed to disagree with that and said, quote, "I was definitely in 2nd place, I don't give a F what Luxe says." But then Lucy laughed and said that she was only kidding. And Lucy added that neither she nor Luxe won that episode because Sasha had won, so it doesn't really matter who was 2nd and 3rd. And then Diabetti asked if it had been between Luxe and Lucy who would have won. And Lucy said, quote, "Well, I think it might have been Dolly Parton." And she said it in the voice of Dolly Parton. This is because Lucy had played Dolly Parton in the previous week's challenge, which was about the queer afterlife, and Dolly was portrayed as God. They then started talking about Snatch Game, which was the challenge for this week, and one of the hosts, Caramel, said that Daya's impersonation of Ozzy Osbourne on the season 14 Snatch Game was decent. And Crystal added that when Daya said, quote, "Ozzy, Ozzy, Ozzy, oi, oi, oi," she thought that it was really funny, but no one else did. And then Crystal was asked about her Snatch Game on season 12 as Poppy, and Crystal said that it was, quote, "one of the most painful things I've ever done." And Crystal also said that she was crying in RuPaul's arms in the workroom before Snatch Game, which was a reference to when RuPaul gave Crystal a hug during the walkthrough. Lucy was then asked if she hadn't played Joan Rivers, who else would she have done for Snatch Game? And Lucy said that one of her ideas was John Benet Ramsey, but apparently the show told her that she couldn't do that. Just to explain in case you don't know, John Benet Ramsey was an American girl who was a beauty pageant contestant, and she was found murdered at the age of 6 in 1996. And her death is still unsolved and remains a mystery to this day. Anyway, they then continued talking about Snatch Game, which was a split Snatch Game in 2 groups, which is the first time that that's ever happened on Drag Race. And Lucy was asked if the groups were able to watch each other's performances, but Lucy said no, and she even said that this was the first time that she had ever seen the other group's Snatch Game. And host Naysha Lopez then asked what Lucy's group was doing while the first group was filming Snatch Game, and Lucy said that they were getting ready and doing their makeup. And Crystal then said that Lucy's group must have had more time to get ready than the first group, but Lucy said that both groups had the exact same amount of time to get ready, implying as though production made sure that the second group didn't get any sort of advantage over the first group. Host Caramel then asked whether they did a walkthrough with RuPaul because it wasn't shown in the episode. And Lucy responded and said, quote, "In my opinion, yes, we did do a walkthrough," and everybody laughed. And just to explain, it became a bit of a running joke throughout the viewing party that the queens kept saying, "in my opinion," before anything else they said. And I assume that this is because the contract that they sign with the show, they aren't allowed to talk about production and give away any backstage information. So if the queens say, "in my opinion," it stops them from getting in trouble with the show, because then it becomes more about their own opinion rather than the show. So every time a queen said something and they said, "in my opinion," it got a laugh from the audience. Anyway, Caramel then made an interesting point that on Snatch Game, the queen who sits on the top row on the left side closest to RuPaul tends to do well on Snatch Game. And this is where Lucy was sitting on Snatch Game, and Lucy was asked if she was told to sit there or if she chose to sit there, and Lucy said, quote, "In my opinion, we were placed where we had to go." Naysha then talked about the runway for that week, and then said in general that they had discussed before whether the runway really counts to the overall score for the episode, or whether it's only the challenge that counts. But Naysha said that in a challenge like this, where there are so many people who did poorly and are in the bottom, the runway does matter, and Crystal agreed. They then got to the part of the episode where Lucy won the episode, and host Batty Davis asked Lucy who made her runway outfit, and Lucy revealed that she made that particular outfit herself and she loves to sew. Lucy also revealed an unaired moment during the judges' critiques where apparently Michelle Visage said to Lucy, quote, "Thank you for bringing Joan Rivers back to life." And Lucy said that that comment meant a lot coming from Michelle, quote, "because that bee doesn't give you a compliment unless she means it." Nature then asked Lucy if there were any jokes that she made as Joan Rivers during the Snatch game that were not shown. And Lucy said there was one joke she wished had stayed in where she said that she was on a bad flight on the way there, and Lucy said, quote, "There was a child behind me kicking and screaming the whole time. All I kept thinking was, where is Casey Anthony when you need her?" And there was a big laugh and a few gasps from everyone at Roscoe's. Just to explain, Casey Anthony is an American woman who was accused of murdering her 2-year-old daughter Kaylee in 2008, and she lied many times during the trial but was eventually found not guilty, which caused public outroar at the time, and it was dubbed the social media trial of the century. Anyway, they then moved on to the lip sync that episode, which was between the twins Sugar and Spice, and during the lip sync they did a choreographed number and did the same routine. The hosts asked how the twins managed to come up with a synced choreographed routine and asked if Sugar and Spice shared a room, but Lucy confirmed that Sugar and Spice did not share a room. Nature then said at the end of the episode that they were going to do the Q&A until Untucked came on, but Nature said that they wouldn't be watching, quote, "that other show that will remain nameless." To explain, they are referring to a new show called The Real Friends of WeHo, which is a reality TV show on MTV that revolves around a group of gay male friends who live in West Hollywood, which is what WeHo stands for. And the cast includes Todrick Hall, who has previously been a guest judge and choreographer on Drag Race, and also Brad Goreski, who is a judge on Canada's Drag Race. And in case any of you are unaware, the show has received a lot of backlash ever since it was announced because it airs right after Drag Race, and many people have theorised that the reason Drag Race episodes were shortened from 1 hour to 40 minutes is to make room for the Real Friends of WeHo, and this has proved to be an unpopular decision. And the show has already received a lot of criticism and trolling online. For example, on Twitter, when the official Twitter account for the Real Friends of WeHo started tweeting the cast announcements, the comments were flooded with lots of very explicit and nasty adult material. I can't give the full details on this video, but the comments on the tweets were eventually disabled because the comments were being flooded with so much negativity and jokes about the show. And it's now become a bit of a joke in the Drag Race community that no one wants to watch the Real Friends of WeHo. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Nature said that they would not be watching the Real Friends of WeHo because, quote, "we actually like to show people with talent." They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and someone asked Lucy whether she was annoyed that the storyline between Amethyst and Robin in their previous relationship kept getting so much airtime. And Lucy explained that she is from the same state as Amethyst and Robin, and she knows both of them, but she didn't know that they had ever been in a relationship before. But she said that it was, quote, "a cute storyline," and she joked and said that they could have shown more of her jokes as Joan Rivers rather than focusing on the storyline. There was then another question about what their favourite previous season is, and season 8 was mentioned, and the winner of that season was of course Bob the Drag Queen. And Batty said that she wanted to give a shout out to Bob because Bob was recently announced as joining Madonna's tour, which has become a massive tour and tickets are already sold out. And this is a really big deal for Bob and is a big move for Bob's career. Another audience member then asked how much the Queens had spent on Drag Race and if it was worth it. Crystal said that she spent just under $4,000, and she also said that Daya had done all of her hair for the show. Daya then said that Crystal paid for Daya's outfits for season 14, and Daya added that although Crystal paid the majority of it, Daya paid around $1,500 of her own money. Lucy then added that she spent a little over $20,000 for season 15, and she added that it was all her own money and she didn't borrow any of it. And Lucy then said that she made some of the runways herself, but not all of them, and she said that she did think that it was worth it. Nature then brought up the fact that during one of the cast interviews for season 15, it was revealed that some of the contestants had brought a DVD player with some adult material on it, and the DVD got passed around the whole cast during filming. And Lucy confirmed that it was true and said that both Malaysia Baby Doll Fox and Jax were the ones that had brought the adult material with them. Another audience member then asked Daya and Crystal which of the runways from their seasons they were the most proud of. And Daya said that she was most proud of her ribbon look in episode 1 because apparently there was supposed to be a different category for that week, but the show changed it right before they were about to leave to film. So Daya said that she and her partner had to scramble to create that outfit in time for filming. And Daya also said that she loved her metallic runway and revealed that the outfit was actually originally being made for a gig for Crystal, but then Daya asked if she could have it instead for Drag Race. Naysha then asked about the talent show on Drag Race and asked whether the talent shows are edited to make the contestants look worse than they are. Lucy said that they are edited and confirmed that she did laugh at Irene Dubois' talent show number, but it was edited out. The reason why Naysha probably asked about this is because Irene had been a guest at Roscoe's the week before and said that people were laughing at her talent show number where she made a glass of ice water, but it was edited out to make it look like nobody laughed even though that wasn't true. They then moved on to Untucked, and there was a moment where Sugar and Spice said that if one of them got eliminated, they would both leave the competition because either both of them are there or neither of them, and this shocked the rest of the cast. Lucy was then asked what she thought about this, and Lucy said that in that moment she believed that Sugar and Spice had already made up their mind and had discussed it beforehand. Naysha then suggested that perhaps Sugar and Spice were saying it deliberately to try and get production to keep both of them in the competition for fear that if one of them left they would both leave. And Lucy said that she hadn't thought about it like that. But then later in the episode, Sasha Colby talked to Sugar and Spice and convinced them that whoever wins the lip sync needs to stay in the competition. And Lucy said that Sasha is, quote, an angel on this planet. And Lucy went on to say that Sasha is so successful and could have been, quote, a rotten bee because she has the credentials, but she said that Sasha really isn't like that and is actually a really wonderful person. And finally, Lucy said that what you saw in Untucked and the emotions from Sugar and Spice was all real and it wasn't faked. And she also said that they had had a lot of cocktails that day too during Untucked, implying as though the alcohol may have had an effect on the situation. So there you go, there was a recap of the Roscoe's viewing party for season 15, episode 4. What did you think of the double snatch game? And will you be watching The Real Friends of WeHo? Let me know in the comments. Please make sure you like, comment and share this video as it really helps support my channel. And of course, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date about new uploads. Thanks for watching and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye! Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's Recap, and this viewing party was for season 15 episode 5, and the guests were season 15 contestants Sugar and Spice as well as Amethyst. We'll be discussing things such as Amethyst and Robin's relationship storyline, shady comments from the judges, and also the unaired drama between Sugar and Spice and Marsha. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So first of all, someone mentioned the Amethyst and Robin relationship storyline. Just to explain, Amethyst and Robin Fierce are both from Connecticut, and on the show, they mentioned that they had had a previous relationship, and it kept being brought up in the show, but the storyline itself hasn't really gone anywhere. Anyway, Naysha Lopez asked Amethyst if she thought the show was giving their relationship more significance than it needed. Amethyst replied and said, quote, absolutely. And Amethyst said that when she saw Robin walk in on the first day, she knew that she would have to address it at some point. But Amethyst said that she did not expect it to become the thing that it did. Host Caramel then asked if the relationship between them was long-term or short-term, and Amethyst said very short-term, and then went on to explain that it was just a hookup. Amethyst then said, quote, one of us wanted something more serious and the other did not. And everyone in the audience laughed, and it was implied as though it was Robin that wanted something more serious and Amethyst didn't, but Amethyst didn't confirm. Amethyst also explained that she didn't expect the show to make such a big deal of the relationship. And Naysha said that there was no breakup and Amethyst just ghosted Robin, which means that you don't reply to someone's messages. And Amethyst said, quote, pretty much. And then Amethyst went on to say, I 1000% own up to the fact that I'm a terrible texter and communicator. They then started talking about All Stars, and the other host, Batty Davis, asked if Sugar and Spice would ever go back for an All Stars, would they compete together or separately? And Sugar said that they would definitely do it separately. They elaborated and said that there was too much of a, quote, twin gimmick, and they don't get to show their own individual personalities. They then talked about the main challenge for that week's episode, which was the design challenge, and Sugar explained that her outfit was really fragile and she had to walk really carefully and not move too much, otherwise it would have, quote, bust out of the seams. And Amethyst said that it was a similar situation for her, and she said that her outfit was all safety pinned at the back and she wanted to cover it up. So at the last minute, just before she was about to walk out to film the runway, she grabbed that fur piece so that she could use it to cover up all of the safety pins at the back of her garment. Batty then asked if the queens had been given any feedback from the judges that they could have worked on. Amethyst said that she was criticised for not wearing padding, but she explained that all of her outfits were fitted to her unpadded body, so there was no room for pads. Amethyst said that Irene Dubois had left her pads for her, but Amethyst said that Irene's pads were way too big, quote, because she's fat. A few people in the audience seemed shocked, and Amethyst joked and said about Irene, quote, girl, she talked bleep about me last time she was here, I don't effing want to hear it. I think what Amethyst is referring to is that when Irene was at Roscoe's 2 weeks before, Irene had said that Amethyst and Robin were, quote, C characters, implying as though they were not the main characters of the season, and said that nobody cared about their storyline. So I think Amethyst was just making a joke about Irene, but it wasn't serious. Amethyst then said she wanted some constructive criticism from the judges so that she could work on things, but then she said, quote, which I never got from Ross Matthews. And Sugar then said about Ross, quote, still waiting for a funny joke. Amethyst then explained that Michelle Visage at least gives constructive feedback and gives you things to work on, but she said that Ross Matthews, quote, just sat there and insulted my look the entire time. Amethyst then did an impression of Ross Matthews and said that he said, quote, you know when you're 8 years old and you get out of the shower and you wrap a towel around you like you're wearing a dress? That's what this reminded me of, and it didn't work. And everyone laughed at Amethyst's impression of Ross, and Amethyst then said about Ross's critique, quote, what the F am I supposed to do with that? Sugar then said that she was done with Carson Kressley, and explained that Carson said something to Sugar during the runway for the Snatch Game episode that was cut out. Apparently, Carson said that for Snatch Game you need to pick icons, and said that Trisha Paytas is not an icon. Sugar then mentioned the YouTube video that she had done with Trisha Paytas and said that they cut out a part of the video where they were talking about Carson, and Trisha said, quote, what does he even do? He's from Queer Eye from 2001, girl bye. And this got a big laugh from the audience. They then talked about the walkthrough for the Snatch Game episode, which was not aired, and Sugar said that it was good that they didn't show it because RuPaul apparently said, quote, some very interesting things, and Sugar questioned whether they would really show it on TV, implying as though RuPaul said something inappropriate. Spice then said that during the walkthrough, RuPaul made Lucy LaDuca spin around so he could look at Lucy's ass. And Amethyst confirmed this and said that RuPaul asked Lucy, quote, have you got an ass? And then made her spin around so he could see it. They then started talking about Snatch Game, and the host, Caramel, asked Sugar and Spice if what we saw on Snatch Game was actually how it went in real life. And Sugar said, quote, it was way worse, and everyone laughed. Just to explain, in the Snatch Game, Sugar played Trisha Paytas and Spice played Miley Cyrus, and neither of them did a very good job. Sugar then elaborated and said that what we saw on TV was only about 5% of what actually happened during Snatch Game. Spice then added that she thinks that Sugar was edited to look more safe than she actually was, and apparently Sugar was criticised for not going big like Trisha. But apparently Sugar did go big and, quote, channeled full-on troll, but it was all cut out. Sugar said that she was totally going off script and said, I think that's why I got the axe. Sugar went on to say that at one point she yelled at RuPaul while in character and told Ru to stop flirting with the pit crew, but apparently RuPaul was not liking her jokes and, quote, looked at me with demon eyes. He was like, girl, you're gone. The hosts then brought up that Sugar had posted on social media after her elimination, saying that she had something to say at Roscoe's and asked what it was, and the audience cheered. Sugar then joked and said that she was in her, quote, PR Polly era, and said that she couldn't say exactly what it was, and Spice interjected and said, "We've already said too much." But Sugar elaborated a bit and said that after you're eliminated, you're held in a small room where you have to just sit and wait for a while before you're allowed to leave. And she said that she was, quote, a hot mess and she was crying. And apparently when she went back to her hotel room, quote, a little magical fairy came to my room and told Sugar a lot of information. And apparently Sugar was able to get closure about her elimination, but she said that she couldn't say exactly what she was told, but, quote, maybe one day we'll be able to talk about that. So from what Sugar said, it sounds like Sugar was told some backstage tea by maybe one of the producers, and then maybe there was some shady reason why she got eliminated, but she didn't confirm exactly what it was. Spice then mentioned Marsha, and said that there had been some unaired drama between them. Spice explained that there had been a whole storyline in the previous episodes that Marsha needed to use more makeup because the judges had critiqued her for not wearing enough. So apparently in the workroom during the Snatch Game episode, Sugar and Spice said to Marsha that they would, quote, sugar and spicify you and give Marsha some of their eyelashes, and they helped her out with her makeup. But then when it came time to the main stage critiques, apparently Michelle asked Marsha who helped her with her makeup, and Marsha immediately said Luxe Noir London, and that was it. And Sugar and Spice said they looked at each other because they were confused why Marsha didn't acknowledge them. And Sugar and Spice were apparently whispering to each other, saying that they should say something to the judges about it. And Spice said that she normally didn't argue back with the girls if something happened, but this was, quote, the one time I did stick up for myself. So apparently when it came time for Spice's judges' critiques, she looked over at Marsha and said, quote, and to Miss Forgetful Freddy down there, whose lashes are you wearing again? And then Marsha replied and said, quote, oh yeah, Sugar and Spice's. And apparently Michelle then said to Marsha that she should take makeup tips from Sugar and Spice. And Spice then said to Marsha on stage that she should give credit where credit is due, and Spice said that it was the one time I got a little spicy. And Spice added that it was so petty and stupid, but she felt like because Sugar and Spice were in the bottom that week, Marsha just thought she wouldn't acknowledge their help and, quote, she was trying to kick us while we were down. Naysha then said in general that it seemed like a lot of stuff was cut from the show, so she asked Sugar and Spice if there were any other moments that were cut out that they wished had been kept in. Spice said that there was a moment during Untucked for the Snatch Game episode that she wishes had stayed in. Spice said that because she's a big fan of Tyra Banks, she wanted to recreate the famous moment from America's Next Top Model where Tyra faked passing out and fell on the floor and then got up and said, I'm acting. So apparently when Spice was in Untucked after Snatch Game, she pretended to collapse on the floor and then got up and said, quote, I'm acting. Since Michelle Visage thinks I can't act, I'm acting. And Spice said that the other girls believed that it was real, but then Amethyst interrupted and said, quote, no we didn't. And everyone laughed. And Spice said that because she felt that the whole situation that episode was so produced, she said, quote, I can give you produced and contrived, I can give you fake. They then moved on to the audience Q&A section, and someone asked the queens what their relationship is like with their families. Just as some backstory, in the Untucked episode for Snatch Game, Sugar and Spice implied as though they don't really have a good relationship with their family and that their family was not very supportive of them doing drag. But Sugar and Spice said that their relationship with their family is now much better, and they were worried that on the show it would look like they were, quote, bashing their family, but this was actually never the case. Caramel then brought up the fact that fellow Season 15 contestant Mistress Isabel Brooks has reportedly adopted Sugar and Spice into her drag family, and Caramel asked if Sugar and Spice would be taking the last name Brooks. And Spice explained that what you saw on the show wasn't the whole story, and a whole part of the storyline got edited out. Apparently, what actually happened was that Mistress became Sugar's drag mom, and Malaysia Baby Doll Fox became Spice's mom, and they were like a quartet. And Spice said that she really bonded with Malaysia, and they talk every day on the phone, but they never showed that storyline on the show. Another audience member then brought up the fact that Mistress Isabel Brooks had been having some issues on social media and asked if Sugar and Spice had talked to her about it and asked what fans can do to help. Just to explain, I did talk about this in my previous video about the drama from season 15, so make sure you check that out and I'll put a link in the description. But basically, Mistress's Instagram account keeps getting suspended because apparently lots of people were reporting Mistress's account for abuse because they didn't like what she had said to Marsha in Untucked and thought that Mistress was bullying Marsha. And Mistress's account has been suspended multiple times now on Instagram. Anyway, Sugar then said that Mistress had joked that, quote, Marsha doesn't have enough fans to cancel me. And then Spice also implied as though Instagram was suspending Mistress's account because her name is Mistress and it could sound as though it's something like an OnlyFans account or something inappropriate even though it isn't, so that might be part of the issue. And Sugar said that it's, quote, a bummer that her account keeps getting shut down because this is the time when the contestants are on the show and they get the most amount of attention on social media. And if their social media accounts get suspended, it can affect their careers and also their connection with the fans. Host Batty Davis then added that Mistress had been getting a lot of hate online because she's an old school queen who likes to, quote, read other queens down, and said that some of the younger audience, quote, don't understand it and are a lot more sensitive in that way. They then talked more generally about the things that were edited out of the show, and Sugar and Spice said that for the lip sync between them in the Snatch Game episode, a lot of it was cut out. Apparently they had a whole bit where they had fake teeth throughout the lip sync, but it was all cut out. And Sugar said that the lip sync was even crazier than what you saw, and apparently Sugar even got on Spice's back and rode her like a cowboy. And Sugar said that it was even more cringy in real life than what they showed, and Spice wondered why they edited it out. And finally, Caramel brought up the fact that the first group of girls in episode 1 had Ariana Grande walk into the workroom, whereas the second group had Vivacious, and Caramel asked if they were annoyed about that. Sugar said that she found Vivacious, quote, fascinating because I could tell that she was in such a bad mood. And Vivacious apparently wasn't looking at any of the girls and just looked straight at the camera the whole time. And Amethyst agreed and said, quote, she was giving I'm paid to be here. And Sugar said that Vivacious has been really sweet online and they really do like her, but she was clearly just there to collect her check, but they loved how unbothered she was during filming. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's Recap for Season 15, Episode 5. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's Recap, and this viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 6, and the guests were Season 15 contestants Aura Mayari and Robin Fierce. I can't use any clips from the viewing party due to copyright reasons, but if you want to watch the full viewing party on Roscoe's channel, I'll put a link in the description. Today we'll be talking about the contestants' frustration at the 40-minute episodes, why Aura doesn't get on with Mistress Isabel Brooks, and Robin admitted that she was drunk on the main stage. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So, first of all, they were discussing last week's episode, which was the design challenge, and Aura mentioned that she wasn't surprised that Amethyst was in the bottom because she had said that she was struggling because she had never used a sewing machine. And this led to an interesting moment where Robin, who we know previously had a relationship with Amethyst, said that before they went to film Drag Race, she had 2 sewing machines and offered one of them to Amethyst so she could practice before filming, but apparently Amethyst never took her up on the offer. Host Naysha Lopez then mentioned last week's viewing party at Roscoe's, where the guests were Sugar and Spice and Amethyst. And Naysha said that they had talked about the fact that a lot of things on the show felt orchestrated. And Naysha asked Aura and Robin if what we saw was different to how it actually happened in real life. Robin said that when they were doing the audio recording for the performance, she was the last person to record her verse, and all of the others were allowed to review the track before they recorded. But Robin wasn't given time to do that, which is why she sung and said, "That's why I wanted to review it." And Robin said that the producer wouldn't let her review it and said, quote, "not the producer of the show, the blonde guy," and it's assumed that she was referring to Leland, and the audience started laughing because Robin didn't know Leland's name. The other host, Batty Davis, made the point that the episodes are so short that we haven't seen much of the show this season, and asked if the contestants felt shorted this season because so much had been cut out. Aura said, quote, absolutely, and then went on to explain that so many stories have been cut out, and said that if there had been some more shown, some of the decisions made on the show would have made more sense because they would have had more context. And Aura also said that she did explain some of her runway and performance choices and the background behind them, but it just wasn't shown. They then got to the part of the episode where the guest judge was introduced, and this week's guest judge was Megan Stalter. And Batty Davis took out her phone and then said, quote, Megan Stalter is an American singer and comedian, and she was clearly looking it up on Wikipedia or something, and everyone laughed because it was implied as though no one knew who Megan Stalter was. And then Robin admitted that she didn't know who Megan was, but then remembered that she had seen her in the TV show Hacks and not the High Gay thing. Just to explain, Megan Stalter is a comedian, and one of her best known sketches is where she plays an employee of a fictional company called The Butter Shop, and in her videos, her character is a well-intentioned person who is trying to be inclusive during Pride Month and always starts her videos saying, "Hi gay," and these clips have gone viral online. And this is why Megan said "Hi gay" to RuPaul when she was introduced in the episode. Anyway, back to the viewing party, and Batty then asked, quote, RuPaul, where is the show? And said that the runway was too quick. Aura agreed and said that the queens spend so much time and money on their outfits, and they are only getting shown for a few seconds, and Aura also said that it's not fair to the queens as artists either that their runways are so short. And this is something that has been talked about a lot, and I actually covered this in my last video about the season 15 drama, so make sure you go and check that out. I'll put a link in the description. Robin added that this runway was one of the ones that she was least looking forward to because she hated her original outfit that the designer made for her, and said that she had to spend time in her hotel room readjusting the look. And Robin then got out her phone and showed a photo of what the original outfit looked like, but it was too small to see in the Roscoe's video. And when Naysha Lopez looked at the photo on Robin's phone, she said that it looked like something you would buy on Wish, which is known for its low quality items. And the other host, Caramel, made the point that the queens in future seasons aren't going to put in as much effort for the runway if they are only shown for a few seconds. And Aura agreed and said that so much context has been cut out that the audience doesn't even know the contestants yet, even though there have been 6 episodes. And this ties into a tweet that Aura had posted a few weeks before where she said, sorry that you guys missed out on a lot of fun chaotic things that happened that day for this week's episode. Aura then made a joke and said that the reason that Drag Race episodes have been cut is because of the real friends of WeHo. This has been an ongoing joke in the Drag Race community, and the real friends of WeHo has been met with a lot of backlash from the community ever since. And Naysha made the point and said that it's not the real friends of WeHo's fault, and that it's important to have LGBT+ representation on TV, but Naysha said that the networks shouldn't cut time from other shows to make room for new shows, and then try and trick the audience into watching it. What Naysha is referring to is that MTV, who bought the rights to season 15 of Drag Race, cut the episodes from 1 hour to 40 minutes, and they also moved Untucked from its usual slot right after Drag Race, and instead they put the Real Friends of WeHo right after Drag Race. And a lot of people criticised MTV for doing this, and accused MTV of trying to trick people into watching the Real Friends of WeHo while they were waiting for Untucked to come on after Drag Race. They then got to the part of the episode where Aura won the challenge, and everyone clapped for Aura, and Aura started to cry. And there was a sweet moment where Aura shared that the reason that she wanted to get on the show was to make her family proud. And she also shared an emotional story that her father suffered with depression and has sadly taken his own life a few years before. And Aura said that she was battling with her own issues with mental health. And she explained that that was why she had a hard time on the show and she had low self-confidence. And she talked about the importance of mental health. The episode then ended and they moved on to talking about the show in general, and Naysha asked about the talent show in episode 1, and Aura said that a lot of people had criticised her talent show for being low energy. But Aura explained that before Drag Race, she had fallen over and badly injured her leg while on stage. And then when she got the call saying that she got on Drag Race, she didn't want to tell the show that she had been injured in case they recast her. So she didn't want to do a dance number for the talent show because of her injury, so she was originally going to do a comedic workout routine, but her boyfriend convinced her not to do it because it didn't feel authentic to Aura's personality. And Aura said that she eventually decided to do a dance number for the talent show, but she couldn't do her usual level of dancing because of her injury. And Aura said that she did explain the backstory of her injury on the show during her confessional, but it was all cut out, and she was waiting to see if they would include this in any future episodes, but they haven't. And that's probably why Aura did eventually tweet about this, explaining that she tore her hamstring, but she seems to have deleted the original tweet for some reason. However, we can see another Twitter user's response to the tweet, and also Aura's response to that, saying that that's why she had to wear flats during the talent show. Naysha then asked Aura and Robin who they got on best with from the cast and also who they got on with the worst. Aura said that she and Robin got really close after the show and they are now really close friends. And then Aura said that although the whole cast does get on well, there are a few people that she doesn't talk to outside of the group chat, and Aura said that for her it was Mistress Isabel Brooks and Lux Noir London. Aura explained that there isn't any drama, it's just that she didn't connect with Mistress and Lux, and Aura went on to say that while taping the show, she felt very intimidated by Mistress because Mistress likes to provoke people for drama, so Aura said she just decided to keep away from Mistress. They then moved on and someone mentioned Amethyst, and this then led to Naysha asking Robin about her and Amethyst's relationship storyline on the show. Naysha mentioned that they had asked Amethyst about it in the week before when Amethyst was a guest at Roscoe's, and then asked Robin if she thinks that their relationship got played up by the show and was given more importance than it needed. Robin agreed and said that she didn't want to talk about the relationship on the show, and she then told a story and said that she had mentioned to Spice off camera that she and Amethyst had dated previously but didn't want to talk about it. And then Spice brought it up during Untucked in episode 1, and Robin said that she had told Spice in confidence and was surprised that Spice had brought it up, but then she said that it's all good with Spice and their friends and it's not a big deal. They then moved on to the audience Q&A session, and someone asked, when the queens are walking the runway, can they hear the judges' snarky comments or is that filmed afterwards? Robin responded and said that it's her favourite part of the runway because she loves a dad joke. And Aura added that they walk the runway twice, once with music and then once without music, so you can hear the judges and they can do their little comments. Another audience member then referred to Robin and Aura as, quote, ketchup and mustard, because they were wearing yellow and red outfits and the audience laughed. And Aura explained that the outfits that they were wearing were actually for a runway that got cancelled, meaning that they never actually wore it, and the theme for that episode would have been monochromatic. Aura then explained that they brought the outfits to Drag Race and were told that they wouldn't need them because the runway category had been cancelled, so instead Aura and Robin wore the outfits to Press Week. And Aura said that she didn't know that Robin was going to wear her monochromatic look for Press Week too, and they ended up being in the same group. So Aura had to ask in each interview not to sit next to Robin because otherwise it would look like ketchup and mustard. Another audience member asked how the queens deal with all of the energy and attention that they get online, both good and bad. Robin said that she had muted notifications and said that it's too easy for your life to revolve around social media and she needed to take a break from social media. And Aura said that people always say not to look at the bad comments, but it's actually really hard to do that. And Aura said that she also muted her notifications because she was getting tagged in a lot of stuff and said that, quote, it hasn't been a great experience online for me. Another audience member then asked what their favourite moment from the season that wasn't caught on camera was, and Aura and Robin started laughing because they were thinking of the same thing. Aura explained that in the Untucked for episode 3, where the runway category was Metallica, during Untucked, Aura said that she, Robin and Marsha drank lots of the cocktails and they're really strong, so they all got totally drunk. And Robin added that during the lip sync, Robin and Marsha were stood at the back of the main stage and they were hanging on to Robin's spear for dear life because they thought they were going to pass out and fall over because they were both so wasted. And Aura said that the guest judge for that week, which was Maren Morris, came into Untucked and gave a shout out to Aura because they're both from Nashville. And Aura said that she barely said anything back to Maren because she was so drunk and she didn't know what to say. They then started watching Untucked for that episode, and Batty Davis brought up the argument that happened between Marsha and Malaysia and asked if Marsha was problematic and if she was a bleep stirrer. And Robin said no and said that Marsha is very PC, but she does share her opinions. And Caramel brought up what happened earlier in the main episode, where Mistress and Lux's team started arguing with Malaysia and Sasha's team about who was going to get the metal-themed song. And she asked Robin and Aura what it was really like in person. Aura said that she thought that they were all just joking and she wasn't taking any of it seriously, but then she only realised that they were actually being serious when it came to Untucked, and then she realised it wasn't a joke. Robin also said that Mistress and Lux were always joking about things and you could never tell if they were joking or just playing a game. And Aura said that sometimes Mistress and Lux's games were, quote, annoying, and said that they were always trying to start some stupid drama. And then Aura said, quote, that's why I didn't vibe with Mistress. They then talked about the confessionals, and Aura said that it's interesting to watch the show and see what the other queens are saying about each other in the confessionals. And Aura brought up the moment from episode 5 where Spice said that she thought that someone else should have been in the bottom instead of Sugar, but wouldn't say who. And Aura said that she asked Spice about it off camera, and Spice said that she was talking about Amethyst. But then, when we watched the actual episode, we saw in Spice's confessional that Spice was actually talking about Aura and thought that she should have been in the bottom. And Aura then said about Spice, quote, oh, she did lie, but then added that it's all good and she and Spice are good friends. And finally, Batty asked them if they would ever go back for an All-Stars season. And Robin said that she would go back, although it was stressful, she actually really enjoyed the filming process. And Aura laughed and said, quote, I'm not going to say no, but not right now. I'm not over the trauma yet. And Aura then said that if she did come back for All Stars, she might be more comfortable in front of the camera and show more of her authentic self. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for the viewing party for season 15, episode 6. Hello everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for another Roscoe's recap, and this viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 7, and the guests were Season 15 contestant Mistress Isabel Brooks, UK Season 2 winner Lawrence Chaney, and Season 11 contestant / judge of Canada's Drag Race, Brooklyn Heights. Today we're going to be talking about Mistress Isabel Brooks' issue with Aura Mayari, Brooklyn Heights denies that she had no power on Canada's Drag Race, and Todrick Hall's comments about Drag Race episodes going back to 90 minutes. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So, first of all, host Naysha Lopez asked Mistress what the tone of the room was when they returned to the workroom this episode after Robin Fierce's elimination and also the fight in Untucked between Malaysia and Marsha. Mistress started by addressing that the episodes of Drag Race had been cut to 40 minutes and said that a lot of stuff had been cut out. But Mistress made the point that the episodes were cut by MTV and not Drag Race, and fans shouldn't be coming for the Drag Race editors because it wasn't their fault that the episodes were cut and they're just doing their best. But Mistress said that because a lot was cut from the show, it makes the episodes a bit hard to understand sometimes because a lot of the context got cut out. Mistress said that in Untucked, although we saw the fight between Malaysia and Marsha, there was actually an unaired fight that was even worse between Marsha and Selena Titties. Apparently, while they were writing the lyrics for the girl group challenge, Selena's verse was all about, quote, tamales and quesadillas, and Marsha told her that she needed to bring it back to country music, and that caused an argument between the two of them. But Mistress said that it was just a misunderstanding and they sorted it out. Mistress then said that one of the queens told her what had happened in Untucked and that Malaysia wasn't happy about Mistress and her group when they argued about getting the metal category for the girl group challenge. And that's why Mistress brought it up and confronted Malaysia about it. Mistress said that she could understand that Malaysia didn't want to talk about it, but then said that Malaysia brought Mistress's name into the conversation, so Mistress was within her rights to ask her about it. Mistress then said she couldn't talk too much about production and what happened, but she said that after that moment happened, she and Malaysia were put in separate vans back to the hotel and were put on, quote, ice, which means that the queens aren't allowed to talk to each other. And this was likely because the producers didn't want Mistress and Malaysia to resolve the drama off camera because they wanted to capture everything on camera. And Mistress then said that Malaysia was actually more annoyed at Lux Noir London because she knew that Mistress was only joking during the argument, but Lux wasn't joking. And Mistress said that she was only joking about wanting metal and didn't actually care that much, but she thought that the others knew that she was joking and didn't realise that they were actually being serious. They then moved on to the part in episode 7, which was the acting challenge, the Daytona Wind part 2, and host Caramel brought up the moment where Mistress convinced Aura to switch roles with her, which meant that Mistress got the lead role, which is what she had wanted all along. And Caramel said, quote, "Mistress reverse psychology Brooks, you got the part you wanted," and everyone laughed. Mistress then explained that she honestly didn't do it on purpose and said that Aura didn't understand any of the Drag Race references in the script. And Mistress said to Aura that if she messes it up, it's going to affect the whole group because this is the lead role. And that's why Aura decided to switch roles with Mistress. Mistress then said, quote, "I would have done well in either part, so it didn't matter to me." They then moved on to the main challenge, and Naysha asked if a lot of the content was cut out. Mistress said she wasn't sure if she was allowed to say this, but apparently, because so many of the queens couldn't remember their lines, they brought in a teleprompter. But that actually made it worse because the queens were just reading straight off the teleprompter rather than improvising. And Mistress added that the part where Spice had to stamp on the ants, apparently RuPaul was going back and forward with Spice for at least an hour to get Spice to do it properly. And Mistress was apparently doing lots of ad-libs and improv, which made RuPaul laugh. And apparently at one point, RuPaul told everyone to look at Mistress and said, quote, "She's a star." So that may be part of the reason why Mistress won the challenge this week. The episode then finished and they were talking about Drag Race in general, and Lawrence said that on Drag Race UK, they were given about an hour and a half of assigned makeup time to put on their makeup for the runway. But they were allowed to use their 1 hour lunch break as extra time to put on their makeup if they wanted to, so a lot of people just didn't eat lunch because they used the time to do their makeup instead, and Lawrence wanted to know if it was the same for the American seasons. And Mistress said that it was the same on season 15, and she said that production provide everything you need, but some people would sneak off to do their makeup during the lunch hour. And Mistress said that on the runway for this episode, the only critique she got was from Michelle, who said that there was a slight fit issue with Mistress's outfit because the pants were a bit loose. And apparently Mistress said that she had lost weight because she wasn't eating, and the judges didn't say anything back to that and it got cut from the episode. Caramel then talked about production and said to Brooklyn Heights that Isis Couture had been at Roscoe's during Canada vs. the World and said that the reason she left the show was because of issues with production. And Caramel asked Brooklyn if she knew anything about that or if there was anything she wanted to clear up. And Brooklyn said, quote, "I really don't about production." And Brooklyn went on to say that she is not a producer on the show, so she doesn't get involved in production. And Brooklyn said, quote, "I show up to work and I do my job." Brooklyn then said that she is good friends with Isis and she doesn't know what Isis was going through, but she's proud of Isis for stepping away if that was what Isis needed. But Brooklyn then brought up what Isis had said at Roscoe's when she was there, and Brooklyn said that she had an issue with it. Just to remind you, during Canada vs. the World, when Isis was at Roscoe's, she said that Brooklyn doesn't have a say in who gets eliminated and that Brooklyn is only the face of the show and has no actual power. Brooklyn said that she, quote, took offence to Isis's comment and said that she called Isis after Roscoe's and said, quote, "Girl, why would you say that? I absolutely do have a say." And apparently Isis said that she was just trying to defriend Brooklyn because people were coming for Brooklyn online because of the eliminations. And Brooklyn said that it was sweet of Isis to do that, but what she said, quote, completely discredited me. Brooklyn then explained that she has a third of the decision-making vote for eliminations, along with Brad and Tracy, and they all have equal power in the decision. And Brooklyn also said that the producers do not tell them who to eliminate, and it's completely the judge's decision. Naysha then asked if Brooklyn wears an earpiece the same way that RuPaul does. And Brooklyn said yes, but said that she does not get fed critiques or told who to eliminate. And Brooklyn explained that the only thing she's fed through the earpiece is when to move on to the next queen or when to do the next line. They then moved on, and Naysha asked Mistress about her relationship with Sugar and Spice as well as the rest of the cast. Mistress explained that she and Malaysia co-parent Sugar and Spice and said that she vibed with Sugar and Spice right away and has a close relationship with them. Naysha then asked Mistress if there was anyone in the season 15 cast that she didn't get on with. And Mistress said that she was a bit taken aback by what Aura had said about her last week at Roscoe's. Just to explain, last week at Roscoe's, Aura Mayari was one of the guests and said that she didn't vibe with Mistress and stayed away from Mistress because she felt like Mistress was always trying to start drama. Make sure you check out my video about last week's Roscoe's viewing party for the full story. I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, back to Mistress, and she said that she gets on with all the cast and she and Aura don't have any issues, so she was confused why Aura had said that. And Mistress also said that she's sure that Aura didn't have any malicious intent behind what she said and her feelings are valid. But Mistress said that she wasn't a fan of the way that Aura said it and was annoyed by what Aura had said because on that particular episode, which was last week's episode, they were talking about the word bully and what that means. And Mistress said that Aura's comments at Roscoe's just incited people to act even more crazy towards Mistress and also Lux, who are the two people that Aura had mentioned. And Mistress said that she thought Aura would have been, quote, more mindful of your words, and that's why Mistress responded to the situation on social media. But Mistress added that she doesn't have a beef with Aura, she was just surprised that Aura had said that because she and Aura do talk. Mistress then went on to say that some of the queens, such as Aura, but not exclusively, post on social media every week explaining what really happened during the Drag Race episodes and complain that so much was cut out, which further ignites the fan base. Whereas Mistress said that she just stays quiet and thinks that the fans should just watch the show. And Mistress said that at the end of the day, it's a TV show, and some of the queens who complain about not getting screen time were, quote, boring as F in person, which is probably why they didn't get much screen time. Mistress then went on to say that one of the reasons why she was annoyed at what Aura had said about Mistress instigating drama was because Mistress wanted to make sure that, quote, our season is not boring. And Mistress made the point that off camera, the queens are not always friends and said, quote, let's be realistic and show an accurate representation on camera of what it's really like. Mistress also said, quote, I'm not a sweetheart, I'm a B, whatever the girls say, believe it. And Mistress said that when she was on the show, she knew that because of the way that she was acting, she was going to potentially get a negative reception from the fans. But Mistress said that she didn't want the season to be boring, so she did it for, quote, the betterment of the season. And Mistress finished by saying that she respects everyone in her cast, even the queens that she had issues with, and said that it was, quote, disheartening to hear the comments that some of the queens had made about her. They then moved on, and Naysha brought up the fact that Drag Race announced this week that from the 10th of March onwards, the episodes would be going back to 90 minutes. And Naysha made the point that Todrick Hall said in a statement on Instagram about the Real Friends of WeHo that Drag Race episodes would not be going back to 90 minutes ever, and that the Real Friends of WeHo had no effect on Drag Race. If you want the full story on that, make sure you check out my video about this, I'll put a link in the description. And Naysha asked Mistress what the situation was and whether the fact that the Real Friends of WeHo was coming to an end was the real reason why Drag Race episodes were going back to 90 minutes. Mistress said that, quote, Todrick doesn't have any position at MTV. And Naysha asked whether Todrick was, quote, talking out of his ass and never knew what was going on. And Mistress said, quote, I don't know, I don't follow him, and everyone laughed. And Naysha asked Mistress whether Drag Race was always scheduled to go back to 90 minutes after the Real Friends of WeHo ended, or was it because of the fan reception? And Mistress said, quote, to my knowledge, it was because of the fan reception. Naysha then made the point about the Real Friends of WeHo and said that MTV should have just put the show after Drag Race and after Untucked, and it would have been more successful and it wouldn't have received so much hate. and Brooklyn said that none of the cast of The Real Friends of WeHo knew that it was going to be on MTV and that it would affect Drag Race. And Brooklyn said that it was unfair that the cast was getting so much hate for a decision that wasn't theirs. And Caramel asked Brooklyn if she had heard this from Brad Goreski, who is on The Real Friends of WeHo and is also a judge on Canada's Drag Race. And Brooklyn said that it wasn't just Brad who was getting hate, it was the entire cast, but she said that Brad is associated with both shows, and as a result, Drag Race was also getting hate from the situation, which was unfair. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and an audience member mentioned the acting challenges and asked if they wheel out a monitor on the main stage so that the contestants and the judges can watch the footage at the same time. Mistress said that for this week's challenge, which was the Daytona Wind acting challenge, they didn't watch any of it and they only saw the footage when it was aired on TV. Lauren said for the UK, each week they saw a rough cut of the raw footage with no computer graphics or music, but they did get shown the raw footage so they would have an idea of what the final edit would look like. And Brooklyn said that on season 11 they always watched the footage on the main stage, and it's the same for Canada's Drag Race. But Lauren said that they play it really quietly and you can't always hear it on the main stage, so you only know if what you said was actually funny if RuPaul laughs. They then moved on to the Untucked episode for that week, and just in case you haven't seen it, one of the main things that happened was that Lucy LaDuca kept saying that she was annoyed that she wasn't in the top that week, and she said it multiple times throughout Untucked, and the other queens seemed to be getting annoyed that Lucy kept mentioning it. And Naisha said that Sasha Colby had said that Malaysia and Lucy tend to, quote, victimise themselves and make it all about themselves. And Naisha asked Mistress what she thought about that. First, Mistress talked about Sasha and said that she felt that Sasha knew that she was joking when they were arguing in the previous episode about who was going to get metal and that they were just playing around. And that's why Mistress asked why Sasha was always trying to turn everything into a, quote, teaching moment when it was actually just a bit of fun. But Mistress added that she loves Sasha and has no beef with her. And then Mistress talked about Lucy and said that although she wouldn't use the word victimise, she does agree and felt that Lucy was getting mad at everyone for sharing their opinions, even though Lucy had asked for their opinions in the first place. Caramel then asked whether Lucy was, quote, shooting herself in the foot by acting like this and would end up getting the same treatment as Jan on season 12, and that producers might intentionally not give her the win to see how she'll react because it makes for good TV. And Mistress said that of course the producer's job is to make everything juicy, and she joked that they were probably doing a chef's kiss when Lucy was acting like that, and Mistress said that Lucy was, quote, setting herself up. And finally, they got to the part in the Untucked where Aura was eliminated, and Mistress said that regardless of what Aura said about her, Mistress said that Aura is very talented and has some, quote, sickening drag. And Mistress said that there's always all-stars, and then Mistress joked and said, quote, she can get herself some real acting classes, and everyone laughed. So there you go, there was the Roscoes Recap for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15, Episode 7. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoes Recap, and this week's viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 8, and the guests were Jax from Season 15, Naomi Smalls from Season 8 and All Stars 4, and Vanessa Vanjie Mateo from Season 10 and 11. Today we're going to be talking about Robbie Turner's Uber scandal, why Dax exclamation point left the Season 8 group chat, and Jax confirms whether the Season 15 lip sync Lollapalooza was rigged. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. They started off by talking about the beginning of the episode when Lucy LaDuca was annoyed about not being in the top in last week's acting challenge. And host Naisha Lopez said that it was, quote, so annoying, and jokingly asked Jax if Lucy was really that delusional or not, and everyone laughed. Jax said that it wasn't a sense of delusion and said that Lucy has a background in musical theatre and acting and is something that she is expected to excel in, so when she didn't excel in the challenge it was tough for her. They then moved on to this week's challenge, which was the lip sync Lollapalooza, and when they were picking people's names for the lip sync using the bingo ball machine, Vanessa wondered whether that was fixed by production, and she made a joke about Naomi and the conspiracy theory. Just to explain, Naomi Smalls was a guest at Roscoe's a while ago, and she revealed that during the lip sync Lollapalooza on All Stars 4, when the pit crew came out with the boxes to choose the lip sync songs, Naomi saw people from production putting the same song name in each box to make sure that production could control which contestants got which song. I did talk about this in a previous video, so make sure you check out that for the full story. I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, Vanessa made that comment and Naomi laughed, and Vanessa said that Naomi was the reason that they didn't use the boxes anymore. And Naysha said that the balls in the bingo thing could be controlled by production, but the queens getting to pick who they wanted to lip sync against is more difficult to control. And Naysha asked Jax if they were told by production who to pick, and Jax said no. They were then talking about the actual lip syncs, and Jax said that the lip syncs were much longer in real life and they were all cut down a lot in the edit. And Naysha asked what Jax thought about the episodes being cut down in general, and Jax said that she was really, quote, upset that a lot of the storylines and relationships got cut from the season. And she said, for example, that she was really close with Robin Fierce and had known her for 6 years before Drag Race. And Jax also got really close with Aura Mayari during the season, but those relationships weren't shown. And Jax said that when she lip-synced against Aura and Robin in the previous episodes and sent them home, it was a lot more emotional than what was portrayed in the edit. They then got onto the part in the episode where Jax got eliminated and everyone cheered for Jax. And Naysha then asked the guests what the hardest part of getting ready for Drag Race is. And Jax said that for her, the hardest part was getting all of the outfits ready. And Jax said that she made 80% of her outfits herself because, quote, I have no money. And Jax even said that she reached out to several designers before Drag Race and said that she is not sample size, so everything would have to be custom made and really tailored. And apparently a lot of designers just didn't respond to Jax because of that. Naysha then said that the subject of the Drag Race episodes being so short has been a really big topic within the community, and Naysha asked Jax if there was anything cut from the season that she wished had been kept in. Jax said that she wished that they had shown more of her and Aura's storyline, and Jax said that she and Aura had a really in-depth discussion about being the only person of colour in a room, and said that she won't ever cause an issue or go up to a police officer because, quote, it somehow ends up being my fault. And Jax said that she wishes that more of Aura's storyline had been shown, and said that Aura had been portrayed on the show, quote, in a very strange light, but said that Aura is not like that in real life and is a really great person. Naysha also asked the other two guests if anything got cut out of their seasons, and Vanessa said that on season 11, in the Untucked episode where Silky Nutmeg Ganache was arguing with Evie Oddly and said the famous line of, quote, I was ready to do so, apparently Vanessa also had an argument with Ariel Versace, but that wasn't shown. Vanessa said that in the episode, she was trying to stand up for Silky and was being the mediator, but apparently Ariel said, quote, act the fool. And this is ironic because the person who originally said that was Alexis Mateo in All Stars 1, and Alexis is Vanessa's drag mother. Anyway, Vanessa said that she and Ariel had an argument in Untucked, but they are okay now. And Vanessa said that there's a reason why some things get cut out of the episodes if they don't fit in with the main storylines of the season, which is probably why Vanessa and Ariel's argument got cut out of the final edit. And Naomi talked about season 8, which Naysha Lopez was also on, and Naomi said that in episode 1, they had done their entrances and RuPaul walked in, and apparently the power went out and they all had to be evacuated into a holding room. And Naysha said that she didn't remember any of that, but Naomi turned to Layla McQueen, who was also in the audience at Roscoe's, but you couldn't see her on camera, and Naomi asked if Layla remembered that, and Layla confirmed that it was true. And Naomi said that it was good that they got evacuated because all the contestants got to talk to each other a bit more while they were waiting to go back into the workroom. And Naysha said that she didn't remember that happening and said that Naomi, quote, has fond memories and I have trauma. And Naysha said that she had blocked the whole thing out. They then moved on and Naysha asked who the guests were friends with from their season and who they are still friends with. And Naomi joked and said that, quote, Dax left the group chat, and she was referring to Dax ! Who also competed on season 8. Naysha laughed and said that she can understand why Dax left the group chat and decided to tell the story of what happened. Naysha said that back when they were on season 8, when the first episode premiered, the whole cast would travel around to different cities and do a viewing party of the first episode, and apparently Bianca Del Rio was the host of it. Naysha explained and said that in at least 2 different cities, they all got into the van to drive to the gig, but they would count to make sure that all the queens were there, and twice they accidentally forgot about Dax and drove off without her. And Naysha said that another time they accidentally left Dax at the airport in Austin, Texas and drove off without her. Naysha explained and said that Dax, quote, doesn't talk, and implied as though people forgot about her because of that. And the other reason was that Bianca was also in the van, so when they were counting all of the queens, they would count Bianca as part of the group and then they forgot that Dax wasn't actually there. And Naysha said that because of all of that, she can understand why Dax left the group chat. Naysha then brought up season 8 contestant Robbie Turner and asked Naomi if she had spoken to Robbie, and Naomi said, quote, I would love to. Just to quickly explain in case you don't know, back in 2018, Robbie Turner once tweeted and said that she was in an Uber after a gig and said that the Uber had crashed and the driver had died. At first, people were concerned about Robbie and supported her, but then Uber, as well as the local police, said that there were no accidents or fatalities reported on the night in question. And eventually, Robbie confirmed that the crash never actually happened and it was just a dream. And in an interview, Robbie gave several reasons and said that she thinks that her drink might have been spiked, and she also said that she may have slipped in the shower. And Robbie posted on Instagram in 2018 confirming that the crash never happened and has not posted anything since then. And Robbie appears to have disappeared from public life ever since. I did talk about the Robbie Turner incident in a previous video, so make sure you check that out and I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, Naomi said that she would really like to see Robbie again because she and Robbie both filmed their season 8 promos together, and Naomi said that Robbie was, quote, the funniest queen I had ever met in my entire life. And Naomi said that she's sad that Robbie has gone through what she went through and hopes that Robbie will, quote, resurface one day. And Naomi said that she could make a comeback as long as it was done the right way. And Naomi made the point that a lot of other drag queens have done a lot worse things and they haven't been cancelled because of it. Naysha then explained the story and said that, quote, there was this one queen called Robbie Turner and one day she woke up and decided I'm going to lie. Naysha then went on to explain and said that she didn't understand how Robbie thought that she would get away with it because Uber did an investigation into it and that's how they found out that Robbie was lying. And Vanessa asked why Robbie had made up that story and Naysha said, quote, she decided that she wanted to lie that day. And Naysha then said, quote, and now she works for Uber. And Naysha said that she was kidding and everyone in the audience started laughing. But then it looked like the other host, Caramel, said that Robbie really does work for Uber, and Naysha said, quote, she really does work for Uber, and laughed. But it's not clear whether they were just joking or not, but they did say it several times. And Naysha said that you shouldn't lie because it can negatively affect people, but she said that she thinks that Robbie has learned from her mistakes. And Naomi brought up the fact that Sherry Pie, who was disqualified from season 12, is now doing drag again and people are paying her for it. And Jack said that she found out that Sherry had done a few private events in New York, and when they found out, quote, we were all up in an effing tizzy about it. And Naysha brought up the interview that Sherry had done on the Tamron Hall show, and Naysha said that Sherry didn't really apologise for her actions and questioned why Sherry was given a platform to speak rather than the victims. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and an audience member asked Naomi about the All Stars 4 lip sync, where Naomi lip synced against Monet Exchange to Come Rain or Come Shine, and Naomi ended up choosing for Manila to be eliminated. And apparently after the lip sync, Naomi asked RuPaul during the recording of their podcast episode what RuPaul thought of the lip sync, and apparently RuPaul joked and said that Naomi should have used a steamer on her outfit because it was wrinkly. Naysha then asked Naomi if production gave her any trouble for picking Manila's lipstick, or if production got involved in any way. And Naomi said no, and said that it was only the camera people there and not the producers, and apparently Naomi really leaned into the moment and was posing for a long time with Manila's lipstick, and the camera operators apparently had to tell Naomi to stop because she was doing too much. And Naomi also confirmed that she and Monet had not discussed what they were going to do beforehand, so she didn't know that Monet had also picked Manila's lipstick. They then moved on to the Untucked for that episode, and Caramel asked about the previous fight in Untucked between Malaysia Baby Doll Fox and Marsha. And Jack said that it went on for a lot longer than what was shown, and they were going backwards and forwards for about 30 minutes, but it's because they were all stressed out in the competition and they were all arguing with each other all the time, but not all of it was shown. Caramel then asked about the moment in episode 3 where Jax moved Sugar to the other end of the table, and Jax said that the reason she did that was just because no one was writing anything down, so Jax decided to move closer so that she could write stuff down. But Jax said that the situation got, quote, misconstrued, and apparently Jax texted Sugar after the episode aired and apologised about it, and they're both totally fine about it now. Naysha then asked Jax who on season 15 has been portrayed in the least accurate way so far. And Jax said that Lucy LaDuca has been portrayed as being very intense and competitive, and Jax said that Lucy is, quote, coming across harsher than she really is. But Jax said that Lucy isn't really like that, and she's actually a really lovely, helpful person. And finally, Jax talked about her elimination and the fact that the other queens were not on stage. And Jax said that she is good friends with season 14 contestant Jasmine Kennedy, who also had a similar experience, and apparently that was the part that Jasmine was the most upset about on her season. And Jax said that she was also really upset that she didn't get to say goodbye to her sisters when she was eliminated. But luckily, she now gets to go on the road with her season 15 sisters, and they've developed a real bond since the show. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's Recap for season 15 episode 8. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back with a Roscoe's Recap for the latest viewing party, which was for Drag Race season 15 episode 9. And the guests were Candy Muse from season 13, Willem from season 4, and Dida Ritz also from season 4. Today we're going to be talking about Dida Ritz accusing Fifi O'Hara of lying, the truth about Willem's disqualification on season 4, and why Candy Muse got in trouble with the Drag Race lawyers on season 13. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So, they first started talking about Drag Race in general and how the episodes of season 15 have been cut down and the episodes are so short. And Dida said that she wishes that instead of the Real Friends of WeHo, Drag Race made a second season of the Vegas Review. Just in case you haven't heard of it, Vegas Review is a documentary about the RuPaul's Drag Race Live show that takes place in Las Vegas. And in the series, it follows the group of queens around while they're in Las Vegas for the show, and there is a lot of backstage drama and gossip from the show. Anyway, Dida said that a second season of the Vegas Review would be more interesting than the Real Friends of WeHo because it's always got a new cast of girls and, quote, there is always some bleep going on. And Willem added that one of the girls from the Vegas Review stole a van and drove it to Idaho for a hookup. And everyone started laughing, but Willem said she wouldn't say who it was that did it, but she whispered the name to Dida, but you couldn't hear it on camera. Host Batty Davis then mentioned Willem's podcast, Race Chaser, which Willem hosts with Alaska, and Batty said that Willem and Alaska had recently had Todrick Hall as a guest on their podcast. Willem said that it was Alaska's idea to have Todrick on the show, and Willem said that she had only watched a few episodes of The Real Friends of WeHo because, quote, I don't need to be fed fake problems by real people. Willem then went on to say that the cast of the show are not real friends, so she doesn't care about the show, and then said, quote, nobody wants to watch boring Fs who are like, ooh, I do skincare, girl, you're in the valley, shut up. And host Caramel said the reason that Alaska had Todrick on the show was because no one from the Drag Race audience wanted to give the Real Friends of WeHo a chance, but Alaska did watch it and didn't enjoy it. And Willem said that Todrick is very talented and said, quote, "and he pays people now," and everyone laughed. And host Naysha Lopez said, quote, "emphasis on the word now." Just to explain, Todrick has been accused multiple times of not paying his staff, which has become one of the big controversies about Todrick. Make sure you check out my previous video about Todrick, and I'll put a link in the description. They then moved on to the main challenge of Drag Race this week, which was the Design Challenge Ball, and Naysha asked if they agreed with the judges' critiques. Candy Muse said, quote, "girl, F Michelle, Michelle, kiss my bleep." Candy then went on to say that if they get rid of Spice that episode, Candy is going to have an issue with them. But then Candy laughed, so I think that she was joking or didn't mean it that seriously. Candy then said that Lucy LaDuca should be in the bottom this week because, quote, "every single week Lucy wants to prove how great she is and every single week Lucy doesn't." But then Candy said, quote, "I'm kidding." Naysha then said, quote, "and this is why Drag Race kinda hates me because I go after production." But Naysha said that she thinks that production wanted Spice to go home that week and their mind was already made up from last week's lip sync Lollapalooza. And Naysha said that Michelle's critique of Spice about her outfit was, quote, "bull bleep," and Naysha said that she thought that it was, quote, "stupid and part of production." And the others agreed that Spice probably shouldn't have been in the bottom to begin with. Candy then went on and told a story and said that after season 13 finished filming, she went to a house party that Sugar and Spice were also at. And Candy said, quote, "I was in a full K-hole, and Sugar and Spice let me ramble on for 45 minutes and just nodded and smiled and not once complained." And Candy said that she lives for Sugar and Spice and said, quote, "Lucy, next week I'm coming for you, B." The episode ended and they started talking about Drag Race in general, and Naysha asked Willem if on season 4 there were any queens who were a bit delusional and always thought that they were going to win. And Willem said that there was one girl who always thought she was going to win a lot but didn't, and someone in the audience shouted something out but you couldn't hear exactly what, and Willem said, quote, "she doesn't go by that name anymore." So it's implied she was referring to Jeremy Carey, formerly known as Fifi O'Hara. Candy then said that Jeremy was apparently going to be part of the new show called House of Villains. And Willem said, quote, "that's a full circle moment because I was also up for that. Fifi finally beat me." Willem then explained that the show House of Villains is on the E channel and the show involves taking all of these villains from different iconic reality TV shows or anti-heroes. And Willem said that it was filming in February but she didn't book it. Naysha asked Dida the same question about who on season 4 was a, quote, "pick-me queen who always thought that they were going to win, and Dida said, quote, "Fifi wasn't obvious but she's a B, F her." Dida then said, quote, "I'm about to choose violence in this moment. F Fifi because the fact that she went on Hey Queen, she disrespected me and made up a lot of lies. And I've been quiet about it for so many years and she knows what she did. F her and I hope you're having a good life." And everyone in the audience gasped and laughed. Just to explain, I believe Dida is referring to this interview with Jeremy/Fifi from Hey Queen in July 2016. In the video, Jeremy was asked about Dida, and Jeremy said that he hadn't seen Dida in a long time and said, quote, "not because we're not friends, but we just haven't seen each other." Jeremy then said that Dida was in New York for a while and then, quote, "magically disappeared," and then said that New York is a hard city and said, quote, "maybe that has something to do with it," and Jeremy made a face when he said that. And I think because of that, the host of Hey Queen, Johnny, laughed and said, quote, "it seems like there's something you're not saying." And Jeremy explained that New York is a hard city to make it in and it's very competitive and expensive. Jeremy then went on to explain that Dida used to live with him, and Jeremy said that Dida had a problem with her ex-roommate, and Jeremy went over to help Dida move out, and apparently Dida's ex-roommate was throwing her clothes out of a window. And Jeremy said, quote, "I will tell you this, and she might get upset about this, she is probably one of the messiest people I've ever lived with in my entire life." Jeremy then went on to explain that Dida loves Popeye's chicken and said that when he came home, there were always boxes of Popeye's chicken everywhere. And then Jeremy asked where did Dida get all the money for this chicken and then said, quote, "she eats a lot." And it appears as though this is what upset Dida. And back to Roscoe's, Naysha asked Dida what happened with Jeremy, and Dida said, quote, "I'm a very loyal friend, I don't tell people's personal business." But then Dida said that when Jeremy went on Hey Queen, quote, "she made up lots of lies, talking about Popeye's chicken boxes and all types of disrespectful stuff that she knows will gaslight fans to disrespect me and come for me." And Dida finished by saying that she did not appreciate Jeremy saying that, and Dida said that when she went on Hey Queen, she was asked about Jeremy, but didn't say anything bad about Jeremy, and Dida then said, quote, "F her, that's all it is." And it appears as though Jeremy must have heard about what Dida had said at Roscoe's, because after the Roscoe's episode aired, Jeremy tweeted saying, "Dida Ritz, keep my name out your mouth. I picked your bleep off a Chicago sidewalk, gave you a roof when no one would. You decided to wreck my living space. I don't think you want me to bring up why you aren't allowed to work at Industry Bar in New York City, or would you?" And Jeremy then followed this up with another tweet and said, "I'd tag you, but you probably have me blocked because that's what happens when I bring up truths, but I'm sure the Drag Race scene will relay the message." And Dida tweeted, seemingly in reply to Jeremy's tweet, but it's unclear. But Dida said, "I heard the trolls are big mad because of what I said at the Roscoe's viewing party. I mean, it's on footage, the racist microaggressions you were throwing at me were obvious. So if you want to be mad at yourself, and we could also talk about gay US of A and why you're banned." And Dida then seemingly responded to what Jeremy had said about Dida being banned from a bar in New York, and Dida said, "And I've always had nothing but a great time at any bar in New York City, that's why I still am doing drag." They then talked about the fact that the Drag Race queens are quarantined and sequestered in their hotel rooms. And Willem said that on season 4, she left her room to go out multiple times, but she would take out other cast members with her because she knew that they couldn't all be disqualified. Willem also said the production had assistants and they would get a van for Willem and Jeremy so that they could go tanning. And Willem said, quote, "They were very lax with us, which no reality show does, but after all of my bleep, they were like choke leash." And Candy said that RuPaul's Drag Race isn't as strict as they say they are, and Candy said that on season 13 they all got massages and pedicures. Willem then brought up Stephen Corfey and even spelled out his name and waved. And Willem went on to explain that Stephen was a producer of Untucked for season 4, who Willem slept with, and apparently Stephen then slept with an employee at World of Wonder and then got promoted to showrunner, and then everyone apparently, quote, slut-shamed Willem, and now they won't hire Willem. And Willem explained that that's why the show made up the lie about Willem's disqualification and said that she was receiving conjugal visits even though that wasn't true. I did talk about this in a bit more detail in another video, so check it out, I'll put a link in the description. And while Willem was talking about Stephen, Candy held up a menu to cover her face for the entire time. And at one point she looked over at Naysha and they started whispering, and it wasn't exactly clear why they were doing this. However, in the comments, people were suggesting that both Candy and Naysha are rumoured to be on All Stars 8, and they didn't want to get in trouble with the show by reacting to what Willem was saying about one of the producers, although this is just a theory and not substantiated. And Naysha asked Willem if she has a relationship with World of Wonder, and Willem said that she likes some of the people who work there, but some of the people at the top don't treat people well. And Willem said that for DragCon, some queens get paid to attend and some do not. And Dida agreed and said, quote, "I had a conversation and personally I'm not going to go to any more drag cons until I feel my work relationship is better with World of Wonder. I told them that over the phone." Willem then made a joke and said that at DragCon she always goes to Candy's booth because Candy has drugs. And Candy said, quote, "What do you think the K special was about?" And Candy was seemingly referring to the episode 11 challenge on season 13, where the queens had to create a commercial for their own soft drink, and Candy called hers the K special. And Candy explained that on Drag Race they have lawyers on set who have to clear things, and apparently for the soft drink challenge, Candy wanted one of the ingredients to be horse tranquilizer, and Candy said, quote, "Horse tranquilizer, ketamine, hello." And apparently legal said that she absolutely could not say that, and that's why she was forced to change it to warm milk. And Candy said that there was more to that story, but she couldn't say any more because she's on camera, but she said that she would tell the others after the show. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and someone asked Willem what happened between Michelle and Raja on All Stars 7 when Raja yelled at Michelle. And this is because presumably Willem and Alaska were the ones to first talk about it on their podcast. I did do a video on this, so make sure you check out that for the full explanation. I'll put a link in the description. Willem didn't really give any additional details about what happened with Raja and Michelle, but Willem said something else that was interesting. Willem said that on All Stars 7, World of Wonder were very kind and let the queens go home to get more clothes or get clothes shipped to them, and this is because the queens were changing their outfits every week for the lip sync. And apparently World of Wonder wanted the queens to look their best, so they allowed them to get extra stuff from their homes even though they technically didn't have to allow them to do that. Another audience member then asked what they would change about Drag Race, and Candy brought up the fact that Willem got the Season 13 queens their Coach bags. Just to explain, in the Season 13 bag ball, one of the categories was money bags, and the queens were given a bag from the fashion brand called Coach, and the queens had to incorporate the bags into their look. And there was a big scandal after Season 13 because apparently the queens didn't get to keep their Coach bags after the show, and Candy explained that Willem tweeted and talked about it on her podcast, and because of that the queens got their Coach bags back, and everyone in the audience clapped. And Willem said, quote, "Honestly, don't use us to create marketing buzz for your show and then not give us our own creations." And Willem said that on Season 4, for the wet t-shirt contest in episode 6, quote, "They took the bathrobes off our backs after we did the wet t-shirt contest, and Dida confirmed it was true." And apparently Willem shoved her bathrobe in her suitcase and then managed to keep hers because she lied to production and said she never got one. Candy then said that what she would change about Drag Race is that for Untucked, she would bring back the Interior Illusions Lounge, the Gold Bar and the Silver Lounge, and they should separate the queens. And Candy said, quote, "Untucked is so boring now." And Batty then asked the queens if they were the host of Drag Race, who would they have as a fellow judge? And Willem said that she would have Dida, but also Billy B, who was a regular judge on Season 4. And Willem explained that although Billy B was sometimes harsh, he was honest and was actually helpful. And Dida said that after Season 4 finished taping, Billy B sat down with her and gave her advice about makeup and drag. And this led Willem to talk about Matthew Anderson, who was RuPaul's makeup artist until Season 9, and he appeared a few times on the show as a guest. And Willem said that on Season 4, if you made it past the first week, Matthew would show each of the queens a photo of themselves and then give them advice on how to improve their makeup. And they would also go out and buy some makeup to help the queens look better on camera. They then moved on and started watching the Season 15 Untucked for this week's episode, and Candy said that she wants the girls to fight and said that Drag Race, quote, "has become too self-aware." And Dida agreed and said that she wants the queens to fight, but Nasia said the reason the queens are so self-aware is because of the fans being hateful to the queens online. And Candy said when you're filming the show, you don't forget about the outside world, and then said, quote, "When you are in a situation, you're thinking, how am I going to react here, and how is everyone going to react outside of this?" And finally, Candy picked up a can of a House of Love cocktail that she was drinking, which is the sponsor of Drag Race as well as Roscoe's. And Candy said that she really loves the tangerine one because it's the strongest one. And she said that at DragCon, everyone was throwing up after drinking them. And Willem interjected and said, quote, "Because they were expired. They were expired because they were from DragCon the year before. They gave the money back for all the watermelon ones too because they were the nastiest ones." So there you go, there was the Roscoes Recap for Drag Race Season 15, Episode 9. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoes Recap, and this viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 10, and the guests were Malaysia Baby Doll Fox from Season 15, Cornbread from Season 14, and Kennedy Davenport from Season 7 and All Stars 3. If you want to check out the full viewing party, I'll put a link in the description. Today we're going to be talking about what the producers said to Malaysia to make it clear that she was going home that episode, the tea on whether Cornbread would return to Drag Race, and the unaired moment from Untucked that may have affected the outcome of this week's episode. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So they first of all started by the hosts asking the guests if they've been enjoying the season so far, and Kennedy said that she had binge-watched season 15 because she's not at home very often. And Kennedy then said that season 15 girls were, quote, keeping the legacy alive or whatever, and everyone in the audience laughed and implied as though Kennedy was being shady. And then Kennedy said, quote, it seems like it gets worse every season, and the audience laughed. Kennedy then questioned some of the casting decisions and said, quote, damn, they picked that one? And Kennedy also said that every season, quote, it brings down our property value. But Kennedy said that she respects everyone and all drag is valid. They then talked about the beginning of this week's episode when the girls came back into the workroom after Spice's elimination, and host Naysha Lopez said that, quote, Lucy is being Lucy. And Kennedy said, quote, I see we have a milk on every season. And then Cornbread said, quote, that's so rude, her name is Diabetes. Naysha then asked Malaysia whether Lucy was really that delusional in person or if it was just the editing. And Malaysia said that she didn't really remember because she didn't interact with Lucy that much during the competition until they worked together in a group. But Malaysia said that Lucy, quote, gave them the material and they used what they get, implying as though Lucy was giving the producers the type of delusional behaviour that they could use in the edit. Host Batty Davis then brought up the heated moment in Untucked from a few episodes ago between Malaysia and Marsha. And Malaysia said that after she had had that moment with Marsha, it was quiet for a very long time and Marsha was, quote, tearing up on the sofa, but they edited that out. And apparently Mistress Isabel Brooks also reiterated what Malaysia had said to Marsha, but that was also cut out. They moved on to this week's challenge, which was the improv challenge where the queens split into 3 groups and had to interview 3 different celebrities. And the first group was Luxx, Mistress and Selena, and Naysha asked the guests who they thought excelled in this group, and Kennedy said, quote, the one who don't got no drag did really good. And the audience laughed and the hosts asked Kennedy who she was referring to, and it appears that Kennedy was referring to Luxx Noir London. And Kennedy added, quote, I think she has a beautiful personality and she knows how to do the competition, she just don't have no clothes. And Kennedy then went on to say that some of the queens on the season just aren't very memorable, but she didn't give any more specifics. They then moved on and talked about Malaysia's performance in the challenge, and they brought up the comment that Mistress had made when she said, quote, I don't know what's worse, the conversation and dialogue or Malaysia's synthetic bob. And Malaysia brought up that moment and then said, quote, first and foremost, that was not my synthetic bob, that was Luxx's synthetic bob, and everyone in the audience laughed. And Malaysia said that Luxx had actually worn that bob during the Afterlife challenge. Naysha then asked Malaysia if anything was cut out of her interview with Frankie Grande, and Malaysia said yes and explained that she thought that she did a good job, and then implied as though they had edited out a lot of her jokes to make her look worse. And later in the viewing party, Malaysia said that they had got given a lot of background information about each of the celebrities so that the contestants could prepare what to ask them, and apparently the information said that Frankie was a vegan. However, just before they went to film the interview, the producers apparently told Malaysia that Frankie was actually not a vegan and that they would be making a sausage pizza. So Malaysia said that she had prepared a lot of questions about being vegan, but then couldn't use any of it because she only got told at the last minute. And then Kennedy told Malaysia not to worry about her performance and said, quote, no worries, Marsha was just as bad. And the audience started laughing, and then Kennedy said, quote, what, I'm just saying, am I not supposed to say that? The B was bad. They then moved on to the runway for that week, which was A Night of 1,000 Beyoncés. And when referring to Marsha's runway, Kennedy said, quote, Marsha looks like a bag of carpets. And everyone gasped and laughed in the audience, and Kennedy explained and said, quote, like they put them in a trash bag and you pull them out and say, oh look B, I got some carpets, you want to buy one? And then Kennedy added, quote, oh you know I didn't mean it girl, and laughed, so I think this was just a joke and wasn't meant too seriously. They then got to the part of the episode where Malaysia got eliminated and everyone clapped for Malaysia. And Naysha asked Malaysia if there was anything she wished she had said to the judges during the critiques. Malaysia said no and explained that she knew, quote, that it was my day, implying that she knew that she was going home that episode. And Malaysia said that at the beginning of the episode, normally the queen who is going home that week usually has a moment in the workroom where they talk about something traumatic. But Malaysia said that she was just smiling the whole episode and didn't want to be defeated. But apparently the producers came over to Malaysia in the workroom and pulled her aside and said, quote, whatever you're feeling today, just go in there and feel it. And Malaysia said that after that, she turned to all the other girls and said, quote, today's the day, implying as though she knew that today was the day she was going to be eliminated, and production had basically confirmed that because they were trying to get her to say something traumatic in the workroom. They then talked more generally about Malaysia's run on the show, and Cornbread then said, quote, I'd like to have a conversation with you all and be real human beings about it. And Cornbread then said, quote, I'm going to say something that's very taboo because the internet falls into a world of, oh, we've got to put this person on a pedestal. And Cornbread then went on to say that she's going to say what most people are afraid to say, but Cornbread said, in her opinion, Lux should have won that challenge and Malaysia should have won the lip sync. Cornbread also said that she is good friends with Sasha, who did win the challenge, and she's also friends with Selena, who was in the bottom two along with Malaysia, but Cornbread said that although Sasha is amazing, she thinks that Lux should have won and Malaysia should have won the lip sync. And Kennedy then said, quote, but can we also say how Marsha should have been in the bottom? And everyone started laughing, presumably because Kennedy had made a few other jokey comments throughout the viewing party about Marsha, so it was clear that Kennedy thought that Marsha should have been in the bottom. And then Cornbread agreed with Kennedy and said, quote, we can say that, but I genuinely forgot that Marsha was in the episode. They then talked in general about Drag Race not being very fair in the decisions they make, but they said that it's a TV show first and a competition second. And Malaysia said that although she loves Sasha, apparently Sasha was really nervous that she was going to be in the bottom that week, and the whole cast was apparently gagged by the judges' decisions throughout the show, and the cast often didn't agree with the placements and didn't think they were fair. Naysha then talked about the editing and said that she agreed with Cornbread that Sasha should not have won this week. And Naysha also said that Lucy was phenomenal in this week's challenge, but Naysha said that the producers know that it bothers Lucy when she doesn't get the win, and so they probably deliberately didn't give Lucy the win just to see her reaction. And Cornbread then said, quote, we have to get past this moment. Zero disrespect to anybody. I'm obsessed with Sasha. She's effing phenomenal. But I feel like the fans now go to a moment of not wanting to speak the truth because they're afraid of what everyone is going to say against it. They then moved on and Naysha asked Malaysia what her relationship is like with the rest of the cast, and Malaysia said that she gets on with everyone and talks to everyone in the cast, and then she paused and said that there was maybe one person that she didn't speak to, and then she laughed. Then Naysha asked her who it was that she didn't speak to, and Malaysia said, quote, I don't know, who do you think it is? And people in the audience shouted out Marsha, and Malaysia then said, quote, I don't know, you want to see the text thread? And then laughed, but she didn't confirm who it actually was. They then got onto the topic of having social media queens on the season, such as Sugar and Spice, or more seasoned queens and performers like Sasha and Mistress. And Kennedy talked about Drag Race casting social media queens to try and get those people's audience interested in Drag Race, and Kennedy said, quote, they're trying too hard when they don't have to. Production is trying too hard to reach a certain demographic that they've already reached, and instead of letting the show work itself, they're trying to work the show. Cornbread then said that the show should have the cast made up half of, quote, old school drag performers, and then the other half should be social media queens, and that mix of queens would make a good season. And Kennedy made the point that the earlier seasons of Drag Race used to be that way, which is why the memorable moments from Drag Race tend to be in the seasons up to around season 8. And Malaysia said that the queens tend to be typecast when they get cast on the show, and then when the queens come who the producers think will bring the drama, the queens don't actually end up bringing the drama because they're afraid of the hate and criticism that they'll receive from the fans. And Malaysia also said that some of the queens say shady things in the confessionals, but not to people's faces, and the fans think that that's okay, but then if someone says something to someone's face that's shady, they get a lot of hate about it. And Cornbread said that if you ask anyone who are the most memorable queens from Drag Race, it's probably not going to make it into the double-digit seasons because the earlier season queens were less afraid to speak their mind and it was more entertaining. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and someone asked Kennedy if she would ever compete in a Versus the World season. And Kennedy said, quote, "True story, they called me for Canada versus the World, but I was in the UK." But Kennedy said that she would go back again if she got another offer. Someone then asked Cornbread if she would ever go back for an All-Stars, and Cornbread said that she would rather go back for another regular season because she was never eliminated on her original season, so it wouldn't make sense to do an All-Stars. And Kennedy then said that she had heard Cornbread had turned down an offer to go on All-Stars, and Cornbread smiled and said, quote, "I ain't gonna repeat that." And it was implied as though Cornbread had previously been offered something, but turned it down, but this wasn't confirmed. But Cornbread said ultimately she would go back to Drag Race. And just as a side note, in a recent interview with Joseph Shepherd, Cornbread said that she wasn't contacted for season 15, which is originally why she tweeted saying that she wouldn't do All-Stars. But it appears as though what Cornbread was saying at Roscoe's is that she would go back, so potentially Cornbread has changed her mind, or potentially what she originally said was misconstrued. We'll have to wait and see. They were then asked what it's like preparing for the show and if there were any memories from that time. And Cornbread said that when she was getting her outfits ready, she got a bunch of her friends to reach out to designers on her behalf and say that they were cast on Drag Race. And this is because apparently designers sometimes snitch on people and reveal who the contestants are that are going on, which is why Cornbread got her friends to lie and say that they were going on instead of Cornbread. They then got on to Untucked for that week's episode, and they talked about the moment when T.S. Madison came in and had a heart-to-heart moment with Sasha, and someone said that it might have been a bit unfair to the other contestants because it felt a little biased towards Sasha. But someone said that T.S. Madison knows a lot of the contestants from before because she's really into the pageant scene. And Cornbread brought up the fact that Selena S. Titties is really good friends with Frankie and Ariana Grande outside of the show, and that's probably why Selena wasn't assigned to the group with Frankie because she would have had an unfair advantage. And finally, Malaysia talked about the moment in Untucked where both she and Mistress thought that they were going to be in the bottom, and Malaysia joked and said, quote, "Gosh, I might get in trouble, but I don't give an F." And Malaysia explained that she and Mistress had been talking in Untucked, and Mistress said that because she was in a gown, she wouldn't be able to do much in the lip sync. And apparently Mistress, quote, had a fit that was edited out, and apparently Mistress said that she was just going to stand there in one spot, and then said to Malaysia that she would have to dance circles around her. And Malaysia said that perhaps the producers had heard what Mistress had said, and so instead they put Selena in the bottom because they didn't want Mistress to go home because they like her, implying as though that's why Selena was in the bottom too instead of Mistress, because the producers didn't want to risk Mistress going home. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15 Episode 10. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's recap, and this week was for Season 15 Episode 11, and the guests were Marsha, Bag of Chips and Juno Birch. And if you want to watch the full viewing party, I'll put a link in the description. Today we'll be talking about things such as what Lucy LaDuca was really like on set, whether Marsha agreed with the critiques of her comedy challenge, and why Anitra blocked Aja on social media. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So they started off by talking about how short the episodes have been so far on season 15, and the host Naysha Lopez made the point that this episode was the first episode where it's gone back to 90-minute episodes and the audience cheered. And Naysha wondered whether they would offer people to buy the extended edition of Drag Race once the season is over. They then talked about the moment at the beginning of this episode where Luxe Noir London said that Lucy LaDuca should have had a baby belly in her runway from last week's Beyonce runway, and the two of them had a bit of a disagreement about it. And this kind of played into the ongoing narrative that there's been about Lucy, that she is desperate to win and is sometimes a bit delusional. And Marsha said that Lucy is, quote, never too serious about anything, and said that Lucy is a lovely person. And Marsha also said that everyone thought that Lucy was going to win that week. So Marsha said that Lucy had every right to be confident because she was good in every challenge. And Lucy has even acknowledged her storyline on the season so far. For example, on Twitter, when the preview for this week's episode came out and it showed the disagreement between Lux and Lucy about the baby bump, Lucy tweeted saying, "All tea, Lux Noir London was right," with a pregnant emoji. And previously on Twitter, Lucy talked about her edit on Drag Race and said, "Truly sick and tired of this narrative they're building that I was so serious and competitive that I didn't have fun. I laughed so much each and every day on that set with every single one of the girls. I truly had a blast, but I guess showing us getting along isn't good TV." And Lucy also got some criticism in last week's episode when she said that she had won 3 challenges, which was 1 maxi and 2 mini challenges. And on the show they made it look like Lucy was being delusional again. But Lucy seemed to imply as though production told her to say that when she tweeted saying, "Being told to list your mini and main wins versus airing your response." Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and they made a joke about no one being able to understand Bagger Chips' accent. And this made Naisha bring up last week's challenge on Drag Race, and she asked Marsha if she really couldn't understand Charo's accent. And Marsha said that she thought it was a bit, quote, unfair that throughout her segment they kept showing confessionals of Anitra saying that Marsha couldn't understand Charo, and then they cut to shots of Marsha looking confused. But Marsha said that she actually had a really nice conversation with Charo, and she admitted that at times she was processing what Charo was saying and was trying to find places where she could cut in with a question. But in general, Marsha implied as though the interview was edited to look much worse than it actually was. They then moved on to the mini challenge for this week, which was a voguing dance challenge. And host Batty Davis said, quote, "I think it's safe to say we waited long enough because some of the girls in the beginning, that would have been a little more of an issue for Queen Aja to read the girls." And Marsha said that for her personally, she wasn't trying to do actual voguing and claims no history in voguing and didn't want to disrespect anybody. And just to explain the backstory behind this, there has been a lot of contention about voguing, especially on Drag Race, and how it is often done wrong, and this could be seen as disrespectful. For those of you who don't know, voguing is a highly stylized modern house dance originating in the late 1980s that evolved out of the Harlem ballroom scene of the 1960s. And it gained mainstream exposure after the 1990 documentary Paris is Burning, and also the Madonna music video for the song Vogue, also in 1990. And the Harlem ballroom scene originated as an African American and Latino LGBT+ subculture from the 1960s through to the 1980s. And there has been a lot of discussion online as to whether it's insulting or a form of cultural appropriation for people to dance in the style of voguing without being part of that subculture or having studied voguing. And the reason Batty mentioned Aja is because Aja has been very vocal about this topic so far. For example, in episode 1 of season 15, Anitra's talent show went viral, and the style of dance she was doing is very similar to voguing. And Aja was live tweeting during the episode, and after Anitra's performance, Aja tweeted saying, "Stop nogging on Drag Race." And nogging refers to when someone is imitating the style of voguing but doesn't have any actual knowledge of it and is doing it wrong. Anyway, after Aja tweeted that about Anitra, Aja received a lot of criticism from people saying that she was trying to, quote, gatekeep the art of voguing. And Aja later tweeted saying, "I just hate mocking Vogue." And Aja seemingly amended her stance on this slightly and later said, "I like her a lot, I just hate it when people not in ballroom get awarded for doing things ballroom related." And Aja said that she had re-watched Anitra's performance and said that she actually liked it and said that Anitra landed the dip correctly, but she said that the duck walking was, quote, a little sloppy. And Aja received a lot of criticism online about this, and some people even said that Aja has not been in the ballroom scene for very long herself, so she shouldn't be critiquing others. However, Aja denied this and said that she has been doing ballroom for a long time. But Aja later said that Anitra's performance was entertaining and she hopes that Anitra takes some voguing classes, and Aja's intention was never to spread hate or bullying towards anybody. And it appears that Anitra must have heard about what Aja had been saying about her performance, and then Anitra apparently blocked Aja. Aja then said in a since deleted tweet that Anitra unfollowing me on Instagram and removing me as a follower after I gave her flowers but made a simple critique on behalf of many others in Ballroom who feel the same way instead of just responding to the DM I sent and creating a dialogue is comical to me. And people responded to Aja saying that Anitra did the right thing by removing herself from Aja's quote pettiness and gatekeeping. And Aja later said that her community was being made a mockery of, which is why she was upset about it. And Aja also compared the situation to if someone was doing a Bollywood dance incorrectly and then avoided being asked about it. And this issue of voguing and gatekeeping has been a big topic recently. For example, I mentioned this in a previous video, but prominent ballroom dancer and performer Laomi once tweeted about Todrick Hall saying that he needed to stop nogging. And Laomi also said the same thing about Drag Race contestants too. And Laomi even said that Drag Race would never book her to be a judge, and she suggested it's because she's considered, quote, problematic for calling out appropriation. And this topic was also called out by other people, such as Gravity Balmain, who competed on season 1 of the show Legendary, which is a voguing reality competition. And when the preview for this week's Drag Race mini challenge came out, Gravity posted on Instagram saying, "Call me a hater all you want, but the voguing mini challenge in tomorrow's Drag Race episode is probably the most egregious and blatant example of the show's unrelenting efforts to bastardize and make a mockery of Vogue and Ballroom, from terminology to technique to framing." And Gravity continued and said that it was very disheartening and claimed that Drag Race was spreading misinformation about voguing. But Gravity made it clear that these comments aren't targeted at the queens, but towards, quote, the powers that be. And so this has become a hotly debated topic, especially now within the Drag Race community, and this is seemingly why Anitra blocked Aja. And people have also started making jokes and tagging Aja whenever Drag Race mentions voguing. And Aja seemingly restarted this issue when she tweeted during the Lollapalooza lip sync, saying that during the Anitra vs Sasha lip sync, the dip was, quote, crusty, and it was assumed that Aja was referring to Anitra. But then, after this week's episode, it appeared that Aja complimented Anitra and said that she was the only one who landed a dip. But Aja did finish by saying that the challenge was, quote, in poor taste. But anyway, that was just a little backstory into the situation, and this is why Batty Davis mentioned Aja's name when they started talking about the voguing mini challenge this week. And Naysha brought up that there's been a lot of controversy going on at the moment that Drag Race did a voguing challenge, and Naysha asked what people's thoughts were on this and whether it was culturally appropriate. But then the episode started back up again, and they said they were going to come back to this topic later, but they never did. They then got to the part of the episode where they were preparing for the challenge, and Anitra said that she had a migraine. And Marsha said that she had said to Anitra that it was a migraine because Marsha gets migraines all the time. But according to Marsha, the medic on set was saying that they might have to go to hospital and was giving Anitra, quote, crazy diagnoses. And Marsha implied that the medic was taking it a bit too seriously. They then moved on, and Naysha asked Juno whether she would ever go on Drag Race and joked that Juno gets asked about that all the time. Just to explain for anyone who may not know, Juno Birch is a British drag queen and YouTuber, and she's become very well known in the drag community, and she's known for painting her face in pastel, quote, alien skin colours, usually blue or yellow, and this is a big part of her drag aesthetic. And she's never been on Drag Race, and for years people thought that she would be because she's very prominent in the drag community, but Juno has said several times that she would not go on Drag Race. Anyway, that's probably why Naysha asked Juno about it, and Juno said that she would love to go on Drag Race and do the acting challenges or Snatch Game, but Juno joked that she, quote, probably wouldn't pass the psych test, and the audience laughed. And the other host, Caramel, said that the psych test is hard, and that's a reason why a lot of local drag performers don't make it onto Drag Race. And Naysha said that the test has 1,000 questions, and said that it's actually more of a patience test. They then got to the part in the episode after the stand-up comedy challenges, and the hosts asked if the edit was true to real life. And Marsha said, quote, I remember it a little differently than that, in terms of the audience reaction, and implied as though it was edited to look worse than it was. But Marsha then said that she was so stressed that perhaps her perception was not accurate. Marsha explained and said that her set was longer than what they actually showed, and she said that each of the pairs got 5 minutes and Marsha got 3 minutes. And Marsha implied as though there were more jokes in her set that got cut out but didn't say what. And someone in the audience shouted out and asked for more details, and Marsha replied and said, quote, "That's all you need to know," and everyone laughed. And in general, throughout the viewing party, Marsha seemed to be very careful with what she was saying, and she didn't really give away very much. So this is potentially why people in the audience were shouting out and asking for more details. They then moved on to the judges' critiques, and they mentioned when Michelle said that Marsha's look was similar to Lucy's look from a few episodes ago, and Michelle suggested that Marsha should have been, quote, crafty and done something else. And Nation made the point that this sort of comment has happened several times on Drag Race, and the queens have only brought what they've brought and there's no time to make different runways. And Marsha said that the only allotted time where you could make a new outfit is the time that you're allotted to sleep, which is not really feasible. They then got to the part of the episode where Marsha got eliminated and everyone clapped for Marsha. And Naisha said that usually she doesn't agree with double saves, but she said that in this case, Marsha's lip sync against Anitra should have been a double save, and everyone seemed to agree. And Marsha said that the reason she wasn't that upset when she left is because her goal to get on Drag Race was to showcase her talent, and she said that she was happy that she left after doing a really good lip sync because that's what people will remember her for. And Marsha said that after every lip sync so far in the season, RuPaul has always been very composed. But she said that after her lip sync against Anitra, RuPaul apparently had, quote, an ear-to-ear smile after the lip sync, which is how Marsha knew that the lip sync had been well received. Marsha later talked about her runways and said that she made pretty much all of the runways entirely by herself in just a couple of weeks. And she admitted that some of her concepts were, quote, not fully cooked, and said that they were a bit simple compared to other queens. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and someone asked Marsha if Lux's wig from episode 1 really was 40 inches, which was a big joke in the first episode of the season, as a lot of people said that the wig was clearly not 40 inches. And Marsha said, quote, "I don't want to give too much away, we did measure it and that's all I'm going to say." And then she said, quote, "Save it for the reunion." Another audience member then said that in season 14, for the runway, which was a night of 1,000 JLos, there were some limitations of what costumes you were allowed to use, and they asked Marsha if the same was true for the night of 1,000 Beyonce's runway. And Marsha said that the way they do it is that because they show the reference image side by side with the runway, the image has to be on Getty Images, and so it has to be from either a red carpet or a live performance. And Marsha said that she didn't really know how to incorporate her drag aesthetic with Beyonce. And Marsha said, quote, "I can confidently say that this was my least favourite runway of the season because I did in fact look like a bag of carpets." And everyone started laughing. This is because last week at Roscoe's, Kennedy Davenport was one of the guests and she said that Marsha's Beyonce outfit looked like a bag of carpets. And finally, an audience member asked Marsha whether she knew that Anitra had jumped over her during the lip sync. And Marsha said that she had no idea that that had happened, and apparently when she was eliminated and walked off stage, one of the PAs came up to her and mentioned it, and Marsha didn't know anything about it, and apparently this was the first time that she had ever actually seen it. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15 Episode 11. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. I'm back for another Roscoe's recap, and this viewing party was for Season 15 Episode 12, and the guests were Season 15 contestants Sasha Colby and Luxe Noir London. And if you want to watch the full viewing party, I'll put a link to it in the description. Today we're going to be talking about who the biggest crybaby was on Season 15. Sasha says that Mistress, quote, gaslit her into thinking that she was in the bottom, and Luxe responds to people thinking that she is cocky and delusional. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. They've started out by talking about the lip sync from last week between Anitra and Marsha, and Lux said that it was the only time she saw everyone in the room, quote, ovation for at least a minute, and Lux said that she was surprised that it wasn't a double save. Host Naysha Lopez then said that reality TV isn't real, and she brought up the fact that certain contestants, such as Lucy LaDuca, have been shown to be a little bit delusional and being a, quote, pick-me queen. And Naysha asked if the edit for all of the queens has been accurate. Lux said, quote, contrary to what people are saying, from my perspective, it was pretty accurate to what was happening in real time. And the other host, Batty Davis, brought up Selena S. Titties and said that in her confessionals, she is a little, quote, jabby, and asked if that was what Selena was really like. And Sasha said that Selena is, quote, spicy in the confessionals, but then said that she is a, quote, crybaby in the workroom, and everyone laughed, and Sasha laughed and said, quote, she knows it. And Batty then asked who was the bigger crybaby between Selena and Lucy LaDuca, and Lux said that physically, Selena has cried more often, but she said, quote, metaphorically, Lucy's complained a little more than Selena. And the guests were then asked if they wished something had been shown in the edit that wasn't shown. And Lux said, quote, I do wish they showed Lucy leading us to the win a little more, and everyone in the audience started laughing. And this appears to be a reference to the beginning of this week's episode, where Lucy said that although she and Lux both won last week's comedy challenge, Lucy felt that she had led the two of them to the win. And it appears that Lux was making a jokey dig about Lucy's comment, but Lux didn't clarify whether she was joking or not. Naysha then asked Sasha about the episode from a few weeks ago where the contestants had to interview celebrities, and Sasha interviewed Charo and ended up winning the episode. And Naysha said that she had heard from others in the cast that even Sasha was surprised that she won that week, and Naysha asked Sasha if that was true. Sasha explained that all the contestants got to watch each other's interviews, so they all knew how each other had performed. And Sasha said that Mistress Isabel Brooks, quote, gaslit me to think that I did bad. And Sasha explained that Mistress had asked Sasha who she thought was going to be in the bottom, and Sasha said that she thought Mistress and Malaysia were going to be in the bottom. However, apparently Mistress said that she thought that Sasha might be in the bottom because Charo was really hard. And that made Sasha doubt herself, and then she went to the runway day thinking that she might be in the bottom. And Sasha then joked and said, quote, thank you, Mistress. They then got to this week's episode, which was the Rusical, and Naysha brought up the moment in the rehearsal when Mistress pointed out that Lux's coat had a security tag in it, and Naysha asked what the story was behind that. Lux said, quote, first things first, I've never had to steal anything. And then she joked and said, quote, I don't steal, I mop. No, I'm just kidding. And Lux explained that right before she went to film Drag Race, she spent over $1,000 on new clothes for the workroom, and because everyone had told her that the workroom is cold, she decided to buy a coat. But apparently because she bought so much stuff, she didn't realise that the security tag had been left in by accident, and it was too close to the filming date for her to go to the store to get it removed. And Batty joked and asked, quote, did you pay for it? And asked for the receipt, and everyone in the audience started laughing. And Lux said that she didn't have the receipt, and then Batty joked again and said, quote, I want to see the receipt for your 40-inch wig too. This is a reference to episode 1 of the season, where Lux said that her wig was 40 inches, but everyone seemed to doubt that, and it's become a bit of a joke online. Lux said, quote, regarding this 40-inch wig situation, I just have one thing to say. It happened 10 weeks ago and I still get comments for it. Unless you're writing me a check for $40,000, I'm not telling you if the wig is 40 inches or not. They then moved on, and Naysha asked the guests who from the cast they were close with and had formed relationships with. And Lux said that she was cordial with everyone, but her voice went up really high when she was speaking, and everyone joked that Lux must be lying. And Lux said that she's not lying and that she would tell you if she had a problem with anyone, but she added that she's not super close with Aura Mayari. And the episode started playing again, so they said that they would come back to this point. And then when they came back, Lux said that it would be easier to say who she is close to, and she said that she's close to Sasha, Mistress, Marsha, Sugar and Spice, Malaysia and Selena, and she said that those are her primary girls. And Lux added that she doesn't have any ill will or hard feelings towards anyone, and said that there are 16 queens and not everyone is going to be BFFs. They then moved on to the Rusical performance for this week's challenge, which was called Wig Loose, and host Caramel said that the season 14 queens had said that for the Moulin Rouge Rusical, they had a weekend to rehearse for that, and she asked if the season 15 queens had the same amount of time. And Sasha said yes, and then Luxe said, quote, potentially, and people started laughing, so it's assumed that Luxe was being careful, probably because of the NDA and not wanting to spill any production secrets. And then Naysha asked how many times they had performed the Rusical, and Sasha said that they did it twice for different camera angles. And Caramel asked if the 80s style clothing was provided, or was that in the list of things to bring for the show, and Sasha said that the wardrobe and hair and everything was provided for them. They then moved on to the runway for this week, and the theme was Everybody Say Glove. And Luxe revealed something interesting and said that the wig that she was wearing for the runway was actually the Kelly Rowland puppet wig that Mistress had worn a few episodes before for the Beyoncé runway. Caramel then asked whose runway this week had room for improvement, and Luxe said, quote, I didn't love Lucy's if we're going to be honest. And she also said that she loved Anitra's look but wished that the lasers were more prominent because you couldn't really see them under the runway lights. They then moved on to the part of the episode where RuPaul asked the queens who should go home tonight and why, and Naysha said that Luxe had gone down the line and said something positive about each person but then read Lucy. And Luxe explained that she wanted to explain her reasoning for her choice, which is why she said something positive about everyone, and she said that she did say something positive about Lucy but, quote, I don't know if amnesia will strike and will forget I said that. But Luxe said that although it didn't air, she did also read Selena slightly and said that Selena, quote, is not as polished, but she has a clear point of view. And Luxe said that she said what she said and she meant it. And Luxe also said that because she gave everyone compliments, she didn't want to then just go to Lucy and say, quote, and Lucy sucks. And Luxe said that Lucy is amazing at what she does and she's really good in Snatch Game and has done well in the competition, but her drag is a little, quote, generic. And Luxe finished by saying, quote, she's got charisma, nerve and talent, she's for me just kind of missing the uniqueness. They then got to the end of the episode where Selena was eliminated, and then they moved on to Untucked. And they brought up the moment when Anitra got a video message from her friend, and when Anitra had finished explaining how much her friend meant to her, Mistress said, quote, I'm so happy for you. But from the edit it almost sounded a bit sarcastic, but it wasn't clear. But Luxe clarified that Mistress didn't mean it sarcastically and she was being sincere, and Luxe said that everyone was just so exhausted that day, which is probably why Mistress said it a bit weirdly. They then moved on and talked more generally about Drag Race, and Caramel asked if Sasha's drag daughter, Kerry Colby, who competed on season 14, or Luxe's mother, Mo Hart, who competed on season 10 All Stars 4 and UK vs the World, had helped either of them get ready for the season. Luxe said that Mo had helped her conceptualise her glove look and also helped her out financially and made some hair for her. And she also gave Luxe advice about what to expect and also things not to do. And Sasha joked that Kerry didn't give her any advice because they're both, quote, July Leos and we don't like asking for help. But Sasha said that actually the one person who did help her out was Mo Hart because she gave her some advice about production and also made some hair for her. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, but first Batty asked them whose concert they'd most like to go to, and they both said Beyoncé. And Sasha said that Kerry did actually get tickets to Beyoncé's tour for the both of them, but Sasha isn't able to go because she has to film something for Drag Race that day, but she didn't explain what. And Naysha asked Sasha if this was the first season that she'd ever auditioned for Drag Race, and Sasha said yes. An audience member then asked which queen who got eliminated early on season 15 did they think left too early and who they would want to bring back and why. Sasha said that Princess Poppy got eliminated a bit too early and she said that she was really funny. And she also said that Irene Dubois would have been, quote, amazing television, and then said, quote, we probably got rid of the villain really early. Another audience member asked if the contestants had any idea how they would be perceived on the show by the audience. And Sasha said that she wasn't that worried about how she was perceived, but she was aware that this was on television, so you need to be able to stand by everything that you say and do. And Lux said that her perception before going on the show has been pretty accurate to how she has actually been perceived so far on the show. And Lux said, quote, "People think I'm a B, people think I'm cocky, people think I'm delusional, and they're absolutely right and they should feel those things." And Lux explained that, quote, "When people who look like me and act like me are given a platform, they are deemed as the negative or the aggressor." And Lux said, quote, "I knew there would be people who'd think she's too much, she's this, she's that, and they're absolutely right and keep thinking it because it got me here today." And everyone clapped and cheered for Lux. And Sasha said that during filming, Lux would often say that she thought she did okay in the challenges, but would then correct herself and said that she thought that she did really well. And Sasha said, quote, "A lot of people don't see a black queer queen loving themselves, and sometimes it's threatening to a lot of people, but I admire it." And Lux said she often underplayed how well she did, but then started not doing that, and she said, quote, "I'm doing amazing, I'm going to say how I'm doing, and if you don't like that, then you can cry about being second place." And another audience member asked how random it is when you get put into teams, and specifically brought up last week's challenge when the queens picked cans of bubbly water which corresponded to the teams. And Sasha confirmed that that particular one was pretty random and that they just picked the cans. And Sasha said for the girl group challenge, they got put into groups depending on the order that they were naturally stood in the line. And Lux said that sometimes the producers would just assign the groups and tell the queens which groups they're in, but Lux added that they were never told what order to stand in and said that she was often in a group with Marsha because they often stood next to each other in the line. And Sasha said that sometimes she would deliberately stand in a random place in the line to switch up the teams. And finally, there was a really sweet moment when Naysha called up a couple to the stage for a special announcement, and one of them got down on one knee and proposed, and the other one said yes, and the audience cheered, and it was a really lovely moment. Hello everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So, I'm back for another Roscoe's Recap, and this viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 13. And the guests were Season 15 contestants Mistress Isabel Brooks, Anitra, and Selena S. Titties. And if you'd like to watch the full viewing party, I'll put a link in the description. Today we're going to be talking about why Selena ripped up Lucy LaDuca's photo for the confessionals, Mistress reveals that she stole RuPaul's book from set, and Selena addresses the viral video where she made some critical comments about Ross Matthews. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So they started out by clapping for Selena, who was eliminated in last week's episode, and they asked Selena what that was like. Selena said that she was thankful that they edited her to look cute because apparently when she came back into the workroom, she threw off her gloves and said, quote, "They kept the white bee." And Naysha asked Selena what was the meaning behind her mirror message when Selena said, quote, "I got what I deserved." And Selena said that in the episode, the question was asked, who deserves to go home tonight? And Selena said that her mirror message was referring to that, and Selena then said, quote, "Here you go, Miss Lucy." And Selena went on to say that she was actually quite happy with her edit on the show, and she wanted to bring representation of her culture to the show, and that's why it upset her when the judges didn't appreciate her looks. But Selena said that's why she gets in her feelings, and she ends up saying, quote, "dumb bleep" on the mic. And Selena also said that although they didn't mention it on the show, Selena has been sober for 11 years now, and she said that she has a higher power and she prays, and that's how she got through the experience. And Selena also said, quote, "I wanted to punch the mirror with the lipstick, I thought that would have been cute, but I didn't want to pay nothing." Naysha then said that Anitra was quite quiet on the show, especially for the first few episodes, and Naysha asked if that was partly because of the shorter episodes, and Anitra said that the short episodes didn't help. And then someone in the audience shouted out saying that it was, quote, "bull bleep," and Anitra joked and said, quote, "He said it, I didn't," and everyone laughed. Just in case you aren't aware, previously the episodes on season 15 were cut down to 40 minutes, reportedly to make room in the schedule for the new reality show The Real Friends of WeHo. And this caused a lot of uproar from the community, and once The Real Friends of WeHo finished, Drag Race episodes went back to the longer episodes again. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and after Anitra's comment about the shorter episodes, Selena said, quote, "I live in WeHo, I've never seen any of those best friends in WeHo," and everyone started laughing. Host Batty Davis then said that they didn't watch the show either, and Naysha said that Selena was the first guest who had ever actually mentioned the show by name because Roscoe's never wanted to acknowledge the show. And Batty even joked and said that Naysha would always refer to it as, quote, the other show. They then started talking about this week's episode, which was the makeover challenge, where the queens had to give drag makeovers to teachers. And the host Caramel then said that because Lucy won the mini challenge this week, she got to decide the pairs for the challenge, and Caramel asked if they felt like Lucy was fair with her pairings. Mistress said, quote, "It's actually so funny that you say that because I would love to touch on this." And Mistress said that recently people have been going crazy online saying that she and Lux had been bullying Lucy. But Mistress clarified that she and Lucy were friends on the show, and she and Lucy would always banter and throw it back to one another. It wasn't just one-sided. Mistress also revealed that Lucy actually made the garment that Mistress's makeover partner wore in the episode. And Mistress said that she had also styled hair for Lucy and Lux throughout the season, and that all of them are friends in real life. And Mistress then said that when Lucy was picking who to partner the teachers with, Lucy's only intention was, quote, to F up Lux because she doesn't F with Lux. Mistress also said that she was really surprised that Lucy gave her Miss Tang, and she respects Lucy for doing that. And the reason is because as a plus size person, there are certain challenges that other queens wouldn't appreciate about being plus size, such as pads and heels. They then moved on and talked about this week's challenge, and Naysha asked what the hardest part of the challenge was. And Anitra said that it was a time issue because they were really racing against the clock. Mistress then said that the contestants were given 3 hours to get both them and their makeover partners in full drag, which is not very much time. Mistress then brought up the issue of asking her makeover partner to shave her eyebrows. And Mistress said that she's surprised they didn't show it in the episode, but apparently when they were doing the walkthrough with RuPaul, Mistress offered her partner $1,000, then $2,000, and then $3,000 to shave her eyebrows. And Mistress said that she was serious and she was about to, quote, drain my bank account. Mistress explained that she has a background in makeup and she used to work for MAC Cosmetics, and she explained that putting people in drag when they aren't used to wearing much makeup and their eyes water from all of the powder, etc., that's the hardest part. And Mistress clarified that her partner did not shave her eyebrows in the end, so Mistress had to just glue them down. Naysha then asked what was the most fun part of the makeover, and they all said the connection that they built with their makeover partners. And Mistress said that Anitra had made Anitra's outfit and her partner's outfit in the workroom, and they were given material and jewellery to help them, and Mistress said that she, quote, mopped all of the jewellery and went home with about 10 sets of jewels. And host Batty Davis then said, quote, "That's not the only thing you stole the book from the Rusical." And Mistress joked and said that she didn't steal the book, she gave it to Selena and Selena stole it. And then Selena denied this and said, quote, "Mistress said, can you hold this for me?" Just to explain, you may remember that in last week's Rusical episode, there was a part where they held up RuPaul's book, Guru. And after the episode aired, Mistress tweeted saying that she stole the book because she thought it was a prop. But it turned out that it was one of the producers' personal copies of the book, and they were going crazy looking for it. And Mistress eventually gave it back to them because she didn't want them to go through her stuff and find all of the other things that Mistress has stolen from set. And then apparently on the main stage, Mistress apologised to Ru and admitted that she had stolen the book, and RuPaul then said, quote, "Well, cue the snipers." And this is what Mistress and Selena were referring to at Roscoe's. Mistress also said that she stole the paddle with her face on it that they used in the mini challenge this week, and apparently the producers were really mad at her for taking it because it had her entrance look on it. And presumably they didn't want her entrance look to get leaked. Anitra also said that she tried to steal a lot of stuff from set, and Mistress said that she and Anitra cut, quote, a big ass piece of the workroom wall out on the first day. They then got to the part of the episode when Anitra won the challenge and everyone clapped for Anitra and Lucy was eliminated. And host Caramel asked the contestants if they had any memorable moments with Lucy that stood out. Anitra said that she and Lucy were neighbours, presumably at the hotel, and Anitra said that she and Lucy would go to the pool on the weekend and hang out. And Anitra said that Lucy was actually really funny, but implied as though during the competition that part of her personality may not have come across. Mistress then said that people will always assume that the cast members are, quote, frenemies, but actually they all get on really well. And Mistress said that she enjoyed Lucy more, quote, when she wasn't on camera pretending to be someone else. Mistress then brought up something that Bob and Monet had said on their podcast, which was that you aren't responsible for someone's trauma that you didn't know about. Mistress said that people thought that she and Lux were bullying Lucy on the show, but Mistress wasn't aware of the trigger that Lucy had from her past about people making fun of her. But Mistress said that Lucy was, quote, reading the F out of me at every confessional, and that Lucy was always picking at Mistress during the episodes, but that's because they had that kind of rapport with each other. And Mistress said that she never took it personally and she didn't feel like Lucy was ever coming for her, and she implied that it was more Lucy and Lux that had an issue with each other. Mistress then brought up what Lucy had said when she was eliminated, which was, quote, I feel a little slighted, Mistress put her girl in a stretch dress. And Mistress referred to this moment and said, quote, feel how you feel, B. Do you like wet or dry food, doggy? You mad? And everyone laughed. Mistress also clarified that she didn't take offence to what Lucy said, and Mistress said she loves it because you can see Lucy's passionate. And Mistress said that when they were there, quote, my heart really did break for Lucy because Lucy did an effing great job in the competition. And Mistress went on to say that Lucy is great and she would never discredit Lucy's talent. But Mistress said, quote, my whole thing with Lucy was, B, you would feel so much more comfortable if you would just say how you effing felt, just be yourself. And Mistress said that everyone else was saying things off camera, but Mistress said them on camera, and Mistress said that it was unfair that she was getting all the heat for it, when the other contestants were saying the same things, but they were just saying it off camera. Caramel then asked Selena if she had a fun story with Lucy, and Mistress brought up a story about Selena ripping up Lucy's photo in the green room and everyone laughed. Selena then asked Mistress to explain the story, and Mistress said that when they film the confessionals, they have printed photos of the queens that they use for continuity, so the queens know what they looked like in the confessionals that they had taped earlier in the season. Selena then said when she got eliminated, she was a little upset, and when she went to film her confessional, she saw Lucy's out of drag photo and ripped it up and left it there so that the others would see it the next morning when they came in to film their confessionals. Anitra then added that every time a girl was eliminated, they would take their photo and hang it up on the green room wall to commemorate them. And Anitra explained that when they came in the next day, they saw that Lucy's photo was all ripped up. And apparently when they walked in after Selena's elimination and saw Lucy's photo ripped up, Lucy turned to Mistress and said, quote, Mistress, why did you do this? Mistress said that it wasn't her, and they worked out that it must have been Selena. And apparently Lucy was, quote, in effing shambles because of the ripped up photo, and Lucy kept asking why Selena would do that. And Selena joked and said, quote, baby, I was going home. They sent me home and kept Lucy. They probably wanted her to crack, let me help. And then everyone started laughing. They then moved on to the Q&A, and Naisha said she wants to start off, and she asked Selena if she would like to talk about the viral video of Selena calling out Ross Matthews. I did do a video on this, so make sure you check that out for the full story. I'll put a link in the description. But just in case you missed it, Selena was at a viewing party for the episode where she was eliminated, and on stage she called out Ross Matthews and said that he can, quote, eat my ass, among other things. And this video went viral online, and Naysha gave Selena the opportunity to clear the air about it. Selena said that, quote, it wasn't my proudest moment, and Selena said she won't apologise for the way that she felt because her feelings are valid, but the way she expressed her feelings was, quote, not the cutest thing. Selena went on to say that although she actually got a good edit on the show, she didn't realise that at the time because she was in the bottom so much and she was in her feelings. And Selena brought up her episode of What You Packin' with Michelle, and Selena said that she felt that she was, quote, Michelle's punching bag all season, and Selena said that Michelle and Ross made her feel, quote, horrible. And Selena said that she confronted Michelle about this during What You Packin'. And in case you haven't seen it, What You Packin' is a YouTube show where Michelle interviews the Queen who was eliminated that week, and they talk about their run on the show and also their outfits. In Selena's episode, Selena started off by saying that she was, quote, really nervous because Michelle had been keeping her up at night because of the critiques that Michelle had said to Selena. Michelle then asked Selena if she felt that her critiques were harsh, and Selena said that because she only got critiques when she was in the bottom, she never felt like she was being lifted up. And Michelle explains that her intention was never to hurt the queens, but to help them improve, and she said that she actually really enjoyed Selena on the show. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Selena said that it felt good to clear the air with Michelle during What You Packin', but she never had that moment with Ross, which is probably what led to her saying those things at the viewing party. And Selena said that she had a phone call with Ross a few days after the viewing party, and they cleared the air, and Selena apologised for what she said on stage. Selena also said that she didn't realise how powerful her voice and her platform is because she never felt like she had had a platform up until then, and this experience has taught her how powerful her platform is. And Selena finished by saying that she and Ross are all good now, and Selena said that with all of the drag bans and the anti-LGBT rhetoric going on, she didn't need to be, quote, adding fuel to that fire, and we should be spreading love. And Selena apologised for her actions, and everyone in the audience clapped and cheered. They then got on to the audience Q&A questions, and an audience member brought up earlier when Mistress had talked about stealing stuff from set, and they asked what else the queens had stolen. Mistress joked and said, quote, I would never take things that are not mine, and everyone started laughing. And then Mistress said, quote, I will say this, I stole so much stuff they had to buy me another suitcase to go home, I'm not joking. Mistress explained that she took fabric, she took things from the mini challenge, a piece of the wall, jewellery, and makeup from the Anastasia wall. Anitra then said that when she took a piece of the wall, she thought that that wasn't enough, so she walked over and took a light bulb out of the mirror in the workroom and took it home with her. And finally, an audience member said that Selena had been heavily criticised for her runways all season, but Raja had actually tooted her look on the last episode of Fashion Photo Review, and an audience member asked what that felt like. Selena said that she knows Raja because they're both from LA, and apparently after Selena got back from filming, she did a show with Raja and asked if she was doing Fashion Photo Review, and Raja said that she didn't know. But Selena said that because Raja was an LA girl too, she would get the references in her runway, such as her entrance look and also her lamppost look. And Selena said that even though Ross and Michelle often didn't get her references on the runway, it felt really good that Raja did get the references. And Selena finished by saying, quote, I tried, B, I tried. I could have went in gowns, beautiful gowns, and probably still went home. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's Recap for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15, Episode 13. Hello everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for another Roscoe's Recap, and this viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 14, which was the semi-final. And the guests were Kit Amin, who won Drag Race Down Under Season 1, and also Anita Wiglet, who also competed on Drag Race Down Under Season 1, as well as Canada vs. the World. And if you want to watch the full viewing party, I'll put a link in the description. Today we're going to be talking about why a crew member got fired on Drag Race Down Under after breaking the rules, Naysha Lopez spills backstage tea about her elimination on season 8, and did a backup dancer break their leg at the season 15 finale during Anitra's number? All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. Naysha started off by talking about the fact that there has not been that much drama on season 15, and Keita said that it's difficult to know what the season is really like because Drag Race is highly edited. And this then led Naysha to ask Keita and Anita whether in Drag Race Down Under season 1 the drama was overplayed or underplayed. Both Keita and Anita said that they felt like the drama was accurately portrayed on their season, and then Anita jokingly said, quote, "The worst thing was Art Simone coming back." Keita then said, quote, "There's some sweet tea about that," but then she said that she wasn't sure if she was able to talk about it or not. Just to explain, on Drag Race Down Under season 1, Art Simone was eliminated in episode 2, which was quite a shock because Art is really well known and respected in Australia. But then Art was brought back into the competition in episode 4, and there was never really a reason given as to why she was brought back. And Naysha and the other hosts asked what was the reason that Art was brought back, and Keita said, quote, "Something happened behind the scenes, and let's just say they couldn't put the season to air without correcting a certain something." And then Keita said, quote, "And then because favours had to be made, queens came back on the season, that's my opinion." And neither Keita nor Anita would give any full details. However, some of you may already know this, but I actually interviewed Coco Jumbo on my channel a while back, who also competed on Drag Race Down Under season 1, and she was the one who sent Art home in the lip sync. I asked Coco Jumbo what really happened, because Art had once tweeted saying that they had to be brought back to reshoot their lip sync because they lost the footage, but she quickly deleted the tweet. And Coco confirmed that the rumour was in fact true. I'll put a link in the description to the full clip, so make sure you go and check that out. But basically, Coco said that the show lost the audio of the lip sync, so she and Art were brought back after their eliminations so that they could reshoot the lip sync, and they had to do it several times. And this was some quite major tea because this rumour had never been publicly confirmed before, and several news outlets even picked up the story after our interview. Anyway, Naysha then talked more about the issue of bringing girls back, and Naysha talked about her own experience on season 8 when she was eliminated in the first episode, but was then brought back in the third episode. And Naysha then seemingly referred to the lip sync that happened the week after she was eliminated, which was between Layla McQueen and Dax exclamation point, which resulted in a double elimination. And Naysha said, quote, "It was a really bad lip sync, and it was very like they sat there and like, we just sent this continental girl home and then we got this lip sync." And it appears that Naysha was inferring that the producers may have brought her back to the competition because they had made a mistake by eliminating her in the first episode to keep another contestant who then went home the next week. Naysha then explained that she travelled the entire way home after her elimination, and when she arrived back home, the producers called her and said that if they could bring her back, would she be interested in that? Apparently the producers weren't sure if it was definitely going to happen, but they called Naysha back very shortly after and said that she was definitely being brought back, and Naysha said that she hadn't even unpacked her things yet. Naysha also said that she, quote, "switched a few things and took a few outfits out and brought some new stuff back with her when she returned to film Drag Race." Naysha then said that sometimes the producers make mistakes when they send home queens with a big following, like Art Simone, which is why they decide to bring them back. And Keita agreed and said that it made for good television and that she's friends with Art and she can see why Art was brought back. They then talked about this week's challenge, which was the queens had to write their own verses to RuPaul's song Blame It on the Edit. And in the episode, they showed the queens learning the choreography, and then they had to record the music video right away. Naysha then said, quote, "I mean, this is where I get in trouble and I get emails," and everyone started laughing. Naysha said that sometimes they make it look like the queens don't really get to rehearse that much, but in reality they do get to rehearse more than they show in the episode. Naysha also said, quote, "They do not want to set anyone up for failure, they don't want anyone to look a fool." They then moved on and started talking about Drag Race Down Under Season 1, and Naysha brought up that the show was filmed in New Zealand even though the majority of the queens were from Australia. Keita explained that the show was commissioned by Warner Brothers New Zealand, so the show was always supposed to be filmed in New Zealand. Keita also said that because the season was filmed during COVID times, all of the queens flying from Australia had to quarantine for 10 days before filming, whereas the New Zealand queens didn't. And Anita said that the studio where they filmed the show was only a 10-minute drive from where she lived, and Anita joked that after her elimination, she just walked home. They then moved on to the runway for this week, and host Batty Davis pointed out that Luxx, Sasha and Anitra were wearing two-piece outfits, and Batty said, quote, "So they're ready to lip-sync." And Naysha talked about Luxx Noir London's runway and said, quote, "I don't know if you clocked this or not, but what they kept showing of Luxx was the same thing over and over again. I think she might have had difficulty walking in it." But Naysha said that Luxx's outfit was white and it didn't really show up that well on camera, and then she said, quote, "The stage is silver, girl, white don't stand out on silver." And Keita made the point when referring to Mistress Isabel Brooks' outfit and said that on stage in real life that outfit would be great because of the beautiful beading and sequins, however on TV you don't really get the same sparkle. Keita also said that a lot of queens make this mistake on Drag Race and their outfits don't show up properly on camera. Naysha said it's because the camera goes in and out of focus, and Naysha said, quote, "When there's too much bling and it hits it, the camera is continuously trying to focus, so it goes in and out of focus." And Naysha said that that's why they have to change the lighting in the background so much to try and take away focus from the camera having to put in all of that extra work. They then moved on to the critiques, and they brought up the moment where Ross said that although Mistress is a bigger queen, she's never the butt of the joke. But Keita brought up that moment in the music video where they showed Mistress starfishing in space, and host Caramel asked if she thought that that was shady of production to do that. And Keita said that she thought it was weird that they made that comment about Mistress not being the butt of the joke being a bigger girl, but then they included that shot of Mistress starfishing. Anita then said that she thought Mistress got the worst critiques, and Keita said that everyone else got quite specific comments, whereas Mistress's critiques were very generic. Batty then said that the queens didn't think there was enough drama on the season, and Naysha made the point that the queens who now get cast for the seasons are very aware of what they're doing, and they know that they'll get hate online, so they are very careful about what they're doing and saying on the show. Naysha used Mistress as an example and said, quote, "Mistress says a lot of shady bleep, and then you guys want to call her a bully. It's not a bully, baby. You enjoyed it the whole mother effing season, so don't come here and call her a bully now when all she was doing was giving you good TV." Keita then made the point that a lot of the fans who call the queens out online are not doing it because they are justice warriors, but because it gives them satisfaction to call people out, and they're doing it to have fun themselves. And she said that some of the fan base are, quote, "effed up." And Naysha said that Drag Race is a TV show first and a competition second, so we should just enjoy the show and the entertainment that it brings. Caramel then asked Keita what the perception of Courtney Act is in Australia, and Keita said that Courtney is a household name in Australia. And Naysha asked why they didn't ask Courtney to host Drag Race Down Under instead of RuPaul, and Keita joked and said, quote, "because they dangled the coins in front of RuPaul." They then got to the part of the episode where Sasha won the episode, and the lip sync between Mistress and Anitra resulted in a double save. And Naysha got the audience to clap for the season 15 queens for giving us a great season. Naysha then said that they were filming the reunion on the same day that Roscoe's viewing party was happening, which was on the Friday, and that the finale was being filmed the next day on Saturday. And then, on the Saturday after the finale was taped, a rumour started circulating online that apparently one of the backup dancers had broken their leg on stage during Anitra's number at the finale. And some people were even saying that Anitra had apparently kicked the dancer accidentally during the number, and that's why they had broken their leg. However, Naysha Lopez tweeted on Sunday and said that this rumour was not true. Naysha said, "One of the dancers hurt himself. A dancer did not break his leg at the RuPaul's Drag Race finale. He was in all the girls' numbers and they had to modify everyone's final number, not just Anitra's. Kudos to the dancers for being so professional. Also, the internet is wild, shaking my head." And a user replied to Naysha's tweet and asked if it was a lie that Anitra kicked the dancer, and Naysha said that it was a lie. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and while they were discussing the reunion and the finale, there was some confusion as to which day the reunion and the finale were being taped. And someone in the audience implied as though the reunion was being filmed after the finale, but the host said that the reunion was taping on Friday and the finale was taped on Saturday. However, I thought this was an interesting point because some of you may not know this, but sometimes the reunion is actually filmed after the finale, which is not what you would expect. For example, I have talked about this in a video previously, but there's a rumour that they filmed the season 9 reunion after they had filmed the finale. So, Shea Coulee and Trinity the Tuck knew that they hadn't won because they had already been knocked out in the first round of lip syncs at the finale. But at the reunion, they still had to tape the moment where RuPaul asks the audience who of the finalists they are rooting for in the finale, even though 2 of the 4 of them knew that they had already not won because they'd already filmed the finale. And some people have even suggested that this is why some of the queens were quite vocal at the season 9 reunion, which caused a lot of drama. However, this is just a rumour and I couldn't find any concrete evidence to support this. And season 10 contestant The Vixen apparently confirmed in a DM message that appeared online that the season 10 reunion was filmed after the reunion as well. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and an audience member asked which of the judges on Drag Race they would replace. Naysha said that she would like to see more representation on the judges panel, and she said that T.S. Madison should be a permanent host. Naysha also said that she thinks that other drag queens should be judges because they know what it's like to do drag and be on the show. But Batty then asked Naysha if she would be truly okay getting criticism from another Drag Race girl. Naysha then said it depends on who it was, and Naysha then said, quote, "I don't," and then she paused and said, quote, "I'm not going to say it." And everyone started laughing, and then Naysha said that she wasn't going to say what she wanted to say, and everyone started shouting out in the audience telling Naysha to say it. Naysha then said, quote, "If there is a drag queen judging us, she has to have the resume. We can't have a Serena Cha-Cha judging a Bianca Del Rio," and then the audience started laughing. And Naysha then said, quote, "Are you going to tell me that Serena Cha-Cha can judge Sasha Colby?" And then Naysha said that unlike some of the other judges, at least Serena knows what it's like filming the show and knows what it's like to be under the pressure of the competition. And finally, an audience member then asked how Keita and Anita, quote, "let loose" in their hotel rooms when they were filming Drag Race Down Under Season 1. And Anita joked that she just masturbated without porn because they didn't have internet access. And Anita said that they did have TV on Drag Race Down Under Season 1, but when they filmed Canada vs. the World, they were given a USB drive that had lots of movies and TV shows on it. And Keita said that on Drag Race Down Under Season 1, they were really strict and they even disconnected the internet from the hotel TVs so they couldn't use the remote control to access Google. Anita then said, quote, "There was that one guy that let us have dinner together, but he got fired." Keita said that that guy wanted to sleep with all of the queens, but he was only successful with one person, and Keita said that she was the one who slept with him. Keita also said that he then got herpes, however it wasn't clear if all of that was a joke or not. So I actually decided to ask Anita whether this was a joke or not, and Anita confirmed that there was indeed a queen care worker during Drag Race Down Under Season 1 who let the queens have dinner together, and he apparently got fired because of it. And Anita said that the part about Keita sleeping with this queen care guy was actually a joke as far as she is aware. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's Recap for Season 15, Episode 14. Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. I'm back for another Roscoe's Recap, and this viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 15, which was the reunion episode. And the guests were Detox from Season 5 and All Stars 2, Jujubee from Season 2, All Stars 1, All Stars 5 and UK vs. the World, as well as Carson Kressley, who has been a regular judge on Drag Race since Season 7. And if you want to watch the full Roscoe's viewing party, I'll put a link to it in the description. Today we're going to be talking about Bob the Drag Queen dissing Mistress Isabel Brooks in a new song, the reason why Carson Kressley was mysteriously absent for most of Season 15, and Detox says that Trinity the Tuck needs to leave Luxe Noir London alone. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. So they started off by talking about the season in general, and Carson mentioned that you may have noticed that he was quite absent from the season, and he was only there for a few episodes at the beginning and then disappeared. Carson explained that they regularly get tested for COVID, and one day he was in his trailer and people came to his trailer wearing quote hazmat suits and told him that he had tested positive for COVID. And Carson joked that they took him and his luggage to his rented Kia Eclipse car and he wasn't allowed to come back on set for 10 days. Carson said that the final episode was 11 days after that, so he thought that he'd be able to at least come back for the final episode. However, they had to change the filming schedule and it was moved to the 10th day instead, so Carson was not allowed to come back for any of the rest of the episodes. They then talked about this week's episode, which was the reunion, and they brought up Princess Poppy's outfit and how it was an homage to Rebecca Glasscock. Just in case you don't know, Rebecca Glasscock was a contestant on season 1 of Drag Race US, and her entrance outfit has become a bit of a meme online today because compared to today's Drag Race entrance looks, it was quite plain. Anyway, Detox said that Poppy did a great job of recreating Rebecca's look at the reunion, and Detox said, quote, "I was like, who's Poppy?" And everyone started laughing, and then they looked into the camera and said, quote, "Hi Poppy." Host Naysha Lopez then brought up Carson being absent for most of the episodes and asked whether because he was absent for most of the episodes, was he able to form more of an opinion and be a bit more loose with his opinions. And Carson joked and said, quote, "I don't know why you looked at me and said loose," and then Carson shoved an entire piece of food into his mouth and everyone started laughing. Carson then explained that although it sucked that he had to miss so many episodes, it meant that he got to see the season from a different perspective. Carson then said that people often ask him if the judges know about the storylines and the drama between the queens, and Carson said no, they don't, and the only thing they get to see are the runways and the performances. Carson then said, quote, "Some of these contestants are shady bees," and Carson added, quote, "We have no idea and you would judge it very differently. I think as a person who has feelings, you might be like, they were mean, I'm going to dock them." They then brought up the moment from the reunion when Princess Poppy joked that people think that she gave other people COVID. Just in case you missed this, I did talk about this in a previous Roscoe's Recap, which I'll link to in the description, so make sure you check that out. But basically, when Poppy was at Roscoe's, she made a comment saying that she had COVID right before filming started, and she tried to shove chapstick up her nose because she had read online that it stops COVID tests from showing as positive. And Poppy got a lot of criticism afterwards, and Poppy tweeted saying that she didn't actually have COVID. And in a recent interview with Entertainment Weekly, Poppy talked more about this and said that it was a joke and she didn't actually have COVID at that point. She also stated that she didn't actually put chapstick up her nose and this was just something that she had read online. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and they talked about this moment at the reunion and getting COVID, and they joked that Poppy must have given Carson COVID, and host Batty Davis said, quote, "Carson, I know how you like them little Twinkie boys." Carson then said that he doesn't have a relationship with any of the queens until after the show is finished. And Carson even said that a lot of people may not know this, but the judges have to sign a contract that says that the judges won't have any kind of relationship with the contestants until the show is over. They then talked about the moment in the reunion when Luxe Noir London addressed whether her wig was really 40 inches long. And Naysha brought up the fact that while they were on the topic of Luxe, Luxe had received a lot of hate online and had to defend her drag and her attitude. Detox said that Luxe came in with a lot of confidence and then delivered on her claims because she's really good at what she does, so her attitude was actually warranted. And Detox made the point that unfortunately, queens of colour tend to be held to a different standard, and Detox said, quote, "Let's call a spade, it's easy to pick on a black contestant." Host Caramel then said that queens of colour get held to a double standard, and Caramel made the point that Luxe had a similar track record and attitude to season 10 winner Aquaria, but Aquaria didn't receive the same amount of hate that Luxe did. And Caramel made a point about how, quote, toxic the fan base is. Batty Davis then said that the queens who had already been on the show are tearing down newer queens and it needs to stop. And Jujubee then said, quote, "Are you talking about Trinity?" And Batty said yes. Just to explain in case you hadn't seen, Trinity the Tuck and Luxe Noir London had a few feuds on Twitter throughout the season. And I did talk about this in a previous video, so I'll put the link in the description if you want all of the details. Anyway, at Roscoe's they talked more about Trinity the Tuck's feud with Luxe, and Jujubee said, quote, "Leave Luxe alone, Trinity," and Detox also said the same thing. Detox then said that the whole thing was, quote, "so silly," and then said that she was about to insert herself into the drama, but then remembered what had happened with Valentina and decided not to. For background information, if you didn't already know, back when Valentina was on season 9, Detox had made several negative comments about Valentina. For example, in one tweet, Detox insinuated that Valentina puts on an accent when she's on TV. And Detox also made a few comments on Facebook from an account under the name Matthew Sanderson, which is Detox's name out of drag. And Detox said that she had a beef with Valentina because she felt that Shea Coulee had been, quote, robbed, and also Detox said that she thought Valentina had a, quote, contrived character and said that she knew her, quote, bull bleep. And in another Facebook thread, which was about Charlie Hyde's defending people calling out Valentina for her bad attitude, Detox commented saying that multiple people had said the same thing about Valentina and said, quote, hashtag common denominator. Anyway, Detox said that because of all of that with Valentina, she decided not to get involved with the Trinity and Luxe drama on Twitter. But Detox said that one of Trinity's tweets that, quote, killed me the most was when Trinity said that she was too busy on her international tour to get involved in the drama. And Detox said, quote, well, you're not too busy to be effing quote tweeting and all of this bleep. Detox said that we have more important things to focus on and we should not be fighting within our own community, and we also shouldn't be focusing on impersonations that were, quote, mid. Naysha then said she feels like this whole reunion episode was essentially Mistress Isabel Brooks's reunion episode because Mistress was the main subject and discussion and was involved in so much of the episode. And part of this might be because recently on Twitter, Mistress got involved in a jokey feud with season 8 winner Bob the Drag Queen. It all started when Mistress tweeted saying, "I'm done beating around the bush, she has stepped out of line with me too many times. At that one queen," which is Bob's Twitter handle, "when I see you, it's on site, period." Bob quote tweeted this and said that if this retweet got 15,000 likes, she would drop a diss track about Mistress. Bob then released a video a few days later called Mistress is About to Get Dragged featuring Selena S. Titties. And the song was set to the melody of the RuPaul song Red You Wrote You, and in the track, Bob made some jokey digs about Mistress such as, quote, how you got two faces but you got three chins. I can't play the songs here for copyright reasons, but I'll link to them in the description. And on the same day, Mistress also released a video called Ode to Monet's Understudy, which was set to the melody of RuPaul's song I'm That Bee. And in the video, Mistress made jokes about Bob such as, quote, how you reading a bee rocking custom couture, if it was rags to riches then Bob was the before. And both of these songs were really funny, and it was clearly just a joke between the queens and wasn't meant too seriously, and it's assumed that this was all pre-arranged because the songs were both released on the same day. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and Naysha then asked Jujubee when the last time was that she was at Roscoe's, and Jujubee said, quote, when you and Derek were fighting and everyone laughed. And Detox said, quote, roll the footage, and Naysha said, quote, we had to edit that one out. Just to explain, at a previous viewing party at Roscoe's, Derek Berry was one of the guests, and the week before when Naysha had announced that Derek was going to be a guest the next week, the audience didn't really react and Naysha joked and said, quote, crickets, and everyone laughed. And people said that Naysha had shaded Derek, and then the week after when Derek was at Roscoe's as a guest, Derek confronted Naysha about her crickets comments, and both of them kept making passive-aggressive and shady comments to each other, and some of them were kept in the video that was uploaded to Roscoe's channel. However, a video taken by an audience member was then uploaded online, and it showed Naysha and Derek getting into a heated argument during the commercial break, and this part of the video was not included in the official video on Roscoe's channel. And people have claimed that this is the reason why Roscoe's no longer allows audience members to record video during the viewing parties. Anyway, they then moved on to the topic of the season 15 finale, and Naysha said that both she and Carson were at the finale. And they said that it was really fun, but it was very long, and Carson said that it took about 8 hours to film. Naysha then addressed the rumours that had been circulating online that Anitra's backup dancer had broken their leg at the finale taping. And Naysha explained that she had tweeted about this a few days ago, but what actually happened was that one of the dancers injured themselves, but they were part of each contestant's performance, not just Anitra's. And so all of the contestants' performances had to be modified to make up for the missing dancer who had injured themselves. I did do a video about this in more detail, so make sure you check it out. I'll put a link in the description. The reunion episode then ended and they moved on to the audience Q&A, and an audience member asked whether they thought that a judge on Drag Race had ever got too personal with their critiques. And Detox said that someone in the audience had shouted out Adore Delano, who famously left All Stars 2 during filming because she said that Michelle Visage's comments were overly mean. Detox explained that leading up to the All Stars 2 filming, they had been touring with Michelle Visage and they had got really close. And Detox joked that Michelle was like a, quote, second mother. Detox said that people got upset with Michelle because of how she judged Adore in that first challenge, and Detox said that she disagreed that Michelle was overly harsh, and Detox said that Michelle was, quote, just doing her job, and Detox said that Michelle was really just saying to Adore that she needed to, quote, wake up, this is what we want to see from you. And just as a side note, Adore has previously talked about quitting All Stars 2 in more detail, and she said that it wasn't actually so much Michelle's comments that made her want to leave, but it was actually more Raven Simonier's comments, who was a guest judge that week. I did talk about this in a previous video, so I'll link to that, so make sure you check it out for the full story on why Adore left All Stars 2. And finally asked whether any of the guests knew about the time that Raja had apparently screamed at Michelle during All Stars 7. Carson then said that he didn't know anything about it, and everyone laughed because it was insinuated that he did know about it but he just couldn't talk about it. And Detox said that Carson's NDA is stricter than the Queen's, which is why he can't talk about it but the Queen's can. And Detox said that she knows Raja, and apparently when Raja got home from filming All Stars 7, she told Detox, quote, girl, wait till you hear what I told Michelle. And Detox said that Raja said that because it's All Stars winners and, quote, we have a bit more freedom in the way we treat you too, referring to the judges. And Detox said that it was the same when they were filming All Stars 2, and Detox said, quote, I'm going to take my time when I need to take my time, and I'm going to talk to you the way that I'm going to talk to you, because it's about knowing your worth and being comfortable with all of that. And I did also do a video about Raja shouting at Michelle on All Stars 7, and I'll put a link in the description. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's Recap for Season 15, Episode 15, which was the reunion. Hello everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. I'm back for another Roscoe's Recap, and this week's viewing party was for Season 15, Episode 16, which was the finale. And the guests this week were Adore Delano from Season 6 and All Stars 2, Roscoe from Season 14, and Pangina Heels, who is a judge on Drag Race Thailand and also competed on UK vs The World. And if you want to watch the full viewing party, I'll put a link in the description. Today we're going to be talking about Laomi criticising Anitra's, quote, failed 360 dip during the lip sync, Roscoe reveals behind the scenes tea from her finale episode, and why Jinx Monsoon had to redo her performance at the finale 3 times. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Please note that because we're going to be talking about the outcome of certain episodes of Drag Race, there is a spoiler alert in place for this video. So, they first started off by talking about the beginning of the finale episode, where the queens did a runway walk and they discussed each contestant's outfit. When it came to Lucy LaDuca's outfit, host Naysha Lopez said that she liked that Lucy did something out of the box and it was executed very well. But Naysha added, quote, why did she choose to look her most hideous at the finale? I don't know why. And everyone laughed. Some of the other hosts said that Lucy looked good, and Naysha clarified that she thought that Lucy executed her look well, but it was, quote, monsterish, and Naysha questioned why Lucy wanted to look, quote, scary. Adore said that perhaps Lucy was using this outfit as a mask because Lucy has really, quote, taken a beating this entire season. They then moved on to the performances by the top 4, and they first watched Anitra's performance. And they all agreed that Anitra looked good and performed well. and Pangina said that she really liked the song and it reminded her of dance hits from the 1990s. However, Pangina said that the performance was lacking a climax at the end, and Pangina said, quote, "I really wanted the payoff somehow. I kind of want that unexpected element a little bit." And it appears that someone else may have also felt that Anitra's performance at the finale were a bit lacking. After the finale aired, Laomi, who is a ballroom dancer known for her voguing, tweeted saying, "Nothing worse than a failed 360. You're wrong for tagging me in that. Is Miss Thing okay though?" And it appears that Laomi was referring to the 360 dip in Anitra's lip sync against Sasha Colby. And you may remember that previously, Laomi had called out people like Todrick Hall as well as other Drag Race queens for nogging, which is when people try to do voguing but don't do it correctly because they aren't trained. And later, Laomi also quote tweeted a tweet that someone else had written where they had stitched together the part from Anitra's lip sync where she did the 360 dip, and they added in a clip from the dance reality competition show Legendary, which Laomi is a judge on, and they added in a clip where Laomi said, quote, "The 360 was all the way failed." So it appears as though people were trying to imply that Anitra's 360 dip during the lip sync had failed. And one of the other people who talked about this topic previously was Season 9 and All Stars 3 contestant Aja. I did do a video about this a while back, so make sure you check it out and I'll put a link in the description. And it seems that someone else brought this up again to Aja and tweeted a video of Aja doing a 360 dip during a performance where she was apparently drunk. And Aja replied to this and said, "People talking bleep about this, but I landed the dip, y'all just mad." And it seems like Aja may have been referring to what had happened to Anitra at the finale, but neither Aja nor Laomi have tweeted any more about it since then. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and host Batty Davis then brought up that Naysha was at the taping of the finale and asked her what the energy was like in the room. And Naysha talked about the fact that one of the dancers injured themselves during Anitra's performance, which was right at the beginning. And Naysha said that they had to wait for about 45 minutes to an hour for them to rearrange the performance to make up for the missing dancer, and they went from 6 dancers to 5. Naysha said that everyone was really excited when the performances got started again, but Naysha added, quote, "The problem was that when it went to Lux, we had to wait that amount of time again because they now had to redo the choreography for Lux." And Naysha added that the dancer who injured themselves seems to have had a major part in each of the performances of the top 4, which is why it took such a long time for them to rearrange the choreography for the rest of the performances. They then moved on to the part where Leland and Orville Peck did a performance to the song from the Wig Loose Rusical. And Batty Davis said, quote, "Okay, that was quite the filler. We really had to fill some time, B." Naysha then said, quote, "I just don't get why they put the girls up there." Batty then joked and said that Sugar didn't even sing the words, and Batty said, quote, "She said, B, I was not here for this episode. I will not be singing this." Host Caramel then said she thought it was weird that they didn't give Mistress or Lux the opportunity to lip sync because only Sasha and Anitra made it to the final lip sync. And Caramel wondered why they didn't do a 3 lip sync battle like they have in some previous years. Bosca then said, quote, "It is so unfair when they do that to the girls." Bosca then talked about the part of the finale where they talked about the drag ban in the Rusical and how that is now becoming a reality in some parts of the country, and they showed messages from drag fans. And Bosco said, quote, "That was possibly the funniest comedy challenge I've seen in a minute. I'm a police officer twice and the priest," and everyone started laughing. And then Bosco said, quote, "Maybe we should be representing different demographics. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't particularly F with priests." Naysha then talked more about the announcement of Anitra and Sasha making it to the top 2, and Naysha said that they were very careful with the words they chose, and RuPaul said that it was based on their performances today and throughout the entire season. Naysha then said, quote, "I thought it was very particular for her to say that because to me, Lux was up there in the performances." And Naysha said that although she loves Anitra, she thought Anitra's performance was, quote, "really missing something." They then moved on to the moment where Malaysia Baby Doll Fox won Miss Congeniality, and the hosts asked the audience what they thought of that, and there wasn't much of a reaction. And Batty said, quote, wait, they didn't feel it, who do you think was supposed to get it? A few audience members then shouted out some names, such as Sugar and Spice, Mistress, Lucy and Marsha. And Caramel joked and said, quote, but was Mistress congenial though? And this led Naysha to refer to Malaysia and said, quote, I love that the one queen that got into an argument with almost everybody is the one that got Miss Congeniality. And on the topic of the drama between the queens, this was also referred to in the last episode during the reunion, where some of the queens confronted each other about things that had happened throughout the season. And one of the comments that was brought up at the reunion was that they did a mini reading challenge, and Irene Dubois said that Selena S. Titties had a fake accent. And then Selena said, quote, okay, white girl. What you may not know though is that afterwards on Twitter, a Twitter user tweeted saying, Irene, I've had enough, shut up, hashtag drag race, you want TV time so bad. And Irene responded saying, I'm sorry, they asked me to add more comments during the breaks. And the user replied saying, but commenting to a POC queen about an accent that's not a good look, and it made very uncomfortable. To which Irene said, I don't disagree. And then Malaysia replied to this tweet and clarified that her and Selena discussed it off camera and all is well, enjoy the reunion my love. And it seems that some of the other queens also made some critical comments about the reunion. For example, Amethyst, who was eliminated in episode 5, tweeted after the reunion saying that the reunion was really disappointing and that during the reunion the only thing that they found time to show about Amethyst was her hookup with Robin Fierce that happened a couple of years ago and, quote, no one cares about. Amethyst also said that they only used about 20% of what she said and they didn't show anything about her music or her journey in drag. And Amethyst said that she wasn't just sitting there not saying anything, they just didn't address her during the reunion. A Twitter user then replied to Amethyst and said that Amethyst could have found opportunities to talk and said that Irene managed to find moments for herself. And Amethyst replied saying that she and Robin did say some nice things about the Connecticut drag scene, but it just wasn't shown. Another Twitter user also replied to Amethyst's original tweet and said that Amethyst was making herself a, quote, martyr, and said that it's the worst way to get asked back on the show or build a stronger fan base. And Amethyst just responded saying, I just said that I was disappointed, ... But it looks like Amethyst deleted her original tweet and hasn't said anything more about it since then. Anyway, back to Roscoe's, and they then talked more about the moment where Anitra and Sasha were announced as the top 2 and Luxe and Mistress did not make it to the final 2. And Naysha asked the other queens what they thought Luxe and Mistress were feeling in that moment. And Batty, Caramel and Bosco all said that they were, quote, pressed. Naysha said that some of the queens looked more upset than others, and Batty said, quote, we saw a couple of face cracks tonight, can we agree? And they made the point that as soon as they announced that Luxe and Mistress were announced as not being in the final 2, they got, quote, scooted off stage quickly. Naysha then said, quote, not only did they scoot them off, but they were like, okay, now come back on stage, we need you for Miss Congeniality. It's like, girl, let them get in their own emotion, let them process. Bosco also then talked about her own experience of this happening to her during the season 14 finale. And Bosco said, quote, it's kind of fun when you're in that position and you lose, and they're like, okay, to the losers with you. Bosco also said that when she, Daya and Nigeria found out that they weren't making it to the final 2, they made them go and join the other queens in a different room. And Bosco said that they were on the backside for some reason because they needed them to come right out afterwards. So apparently they didn't even get to see the final lip sync between Willow Pill and Lady Camden because they were being held in a room off stage. They then talked about Jinx Monsoon's performance, where she performed a song from the musical Chicago because Jinx is currently performing Chicago on Broadway. And Naysha spilled some backstage tea and said that apparently Jinx did the performance 3 times because the first time she did it, it was amazing. But the second time, when Jinx started to sing, apparently she went wrong and told them to stop the music and said, quote, that wasn't it. And then she did it for a 3rd time and did it perfectly. They then got to the part of the finale where they announced Sasha Colby as the winner of season 15 and everyone on stage went wild and so did the audience. And Batty Davis started crying and said, quote, I just have to say, as a trans individual, that means so much, and everyone started clapping. Then Naysha joked and said that we were all expecting Sasha to win, but it was still great to see her win. And Naysha then said, quote, "It was such a rush to experience it because, you know, the show be pulling it sometimes." And Naysha said that she thought Sasha should win, but she wasn't sure if the show was going to pull a stunt or not. They then moved on to the audience Q&A, and an audience member asked Adore how they choose the guests for the pit stop and asked whether Bianca reached out to Adore directly or does production choose the guests. Adore said it depends on who the host is, but this year Bianca wanted, quote, "a certain type of vibe." And Adore added, quote, "because I saw everyone that was on and I was like, oh, it's all the people that we get drunk at Bianca's house with." And Naysha said that the person hosting the pit stop does have a big part in the choosing of the guests, and they choose people that they'll have chemistry with. And Naysha said that when she was a guest on the pit stop, she did it with Bob the drag queen because she's friends with Bob and they can have banter with each other. Another audience member then asked Pangina what it was like going from the host of Drag Race Thailand to then competing in UK versus the world, and asked whether Pangina was asked to take part or did she reach out to production directly. Pangina said that she was emailed about it and she was really excited, and Pangina said that it changed her life and she quit everything to focus on it. Pangina said that her co-host on Drag Race Thailand, Art Aria, told her, quote, "don't effing do it." And Pangina added that she doesn't listen to anybody apart from herself, but Art Aria did then help her prepare for the season. Another audience member asked if the Queens went back for an All-Stars season, what would they do for their talent show? And the audience member said, quote, "you included, Naysha." And everyone started laughing, and the reason is probably because Naysha is rumoured to be on All Stars 8, which has been announced to start airing in May this year. And if it is true, obviously Naysha wouldn't be able to talk about it, which is why everyone was laughing when Naysha was asked this question. Bosco then said, quote, "yeah, Naysha, what would you do for your talent show?" Naysha then started laughing and said, quote, "if I was called back for an All-Stars season, what would I do for talent?" Batty Davis then said, quote, "first of all, I know that you wouldn't effing go back, so..." And Naysha laughed and said that talent shows should showcase what you can do, so she would just do something that showcases what she does. And Naysha then said, quote, "but this is not about me. Ladies, what would you do?" And everyone started laughing again because it was obvious Naysha didn't want to talk about it. And finally, an audience member asked if the Queens had to make a song based on a pun of their drag name, what would it be? And Naysha said that hers would be called, quote, "Elimination," and everyone started laughing. Naysha explained that they once did this video where Queens read out mean tweets, and one of the comments said that Naysha should be called Elimination because she got eliminated on Drag Race. Naysha said that she used that word now to try and confront it head on, but Naysha explained that being called Elimination, quote, "haunted me, it bugged me forever." Naysha also said that when people create specific names for just one queen, quote, "it effing hurts." And Naysha said that it bothered her for years because people would always comment on her stuff saying elimination, and it, quote, "disregarded anything I've ever done in drag." And Naysha said that the name weighed heavy on her, and fans think that it's funny to come up with these names for the queens, but they're not funny and it really hurts the queens. But Naysha ended by saying that she decided to use that word today because, quote, "I've taken the meaning away from it, it means nothing to me now, and I know that I'm so much more than that," and everyone started cheering. And this is a good reminder that it's never okay to be mean or hateful to the queens, so please remember to treat the queens with respect and not say rude or hateful things to them, and that includes in the comments on this video. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for RuPaul's Drag Race Season 15, Episode 16, which was the finale. And I'd just like to give a special shout out to Emerald1508, who recently joined my Patreon in the You're a Winner Baby tier. And I'd also like to say a big thank you to all of my Patreon members. Your support is truly incredible and it really makes a huge difference to my channel, so thank you so much. If you'd like early access to my videos before they go on YouTube, as well as shoutouts in my videos, priority when submitting interview questions, and also access to my archived videos, you can join my Patreon for just a few dollars a month to unlock these incredible benefits. I'll put a link in the description. So, did you agree with the winner of Season 15? And what was your favourite part from the Roscoe's recaps throughout Season 15? Let me know in the comments. Please make sure you like, comment and share this video as it really helps support my channel. And of course, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date about new uploads. Thanks for watching and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!